Morena tātou. Good morning. Welcome everyone to this morning's meeting. We'll begin our meeting with the Council Karakia. Kia inoi tātou. Tuia I runga, tuia I raro, tuia I roto, tuia I waho, tui ngā kaimahi o te kaunihera o Kirikiriroa, whaia te iti kahurangi, kia u, kia mau, kia ita, haumie, huie, taikie. All right, welcome everyone. We have apologies from Councillor O'Leary. Otherwise, I think we've got a pretty full house, and Councillor Maria will be joining us online today. And there will be, oh, and our Deputy Mayor, sorry, yes, I literally just called him 30 seconds ago to see where he was. That is a mystery currently, but sorry. I can only assume that he is very quickly going to arrive through the doors. Yeah. Was that him there? All right. Mystery solved. All right, so just in time before we take the apologies. Yes, Deputy Mayor Jeff. So we'll move to the apologies. I'll move, so we've got Councillor Angela away and Councillor Emma will second. All those in favour of accepting those? Right, thank you. Okay, confirmation of the agenda. I am going to rejig the order a little bit this morning to bring the Chair's report down to the end of the public session. The reason for that is usually we've got some interest in the minor transport improvements from the public, so that allows us to take that first, and in terms of staff availability, we need to take the next item, strategic transport initiatives, fairly promptly, and then, yes, we'll see where morning tea break falls after that. So I will move the agenda. Councillor Mesh second. All of those in favour? Right, thank you. Declarations of interest, are there any? There are none. We'll carry on. Public forum. Good morning. All right, we have Akisa from the police. Welcome. And where are we going to do public forum? Up here? No? Yep. We'll do it here because that's where we agreed. That's all right. Yes, yep. Welcome. And as discussed before, there's around 5 minutes, so we're in your hands.
Okay, awesome. So, Morena, my name's Akisa. I'm a school community officer. I've been in the police for 5 years. Myself and 2 others, our key role is doing road patrol within primary schools in the summer months. Within these schools, we have identified, in particular Knighton Normal School, the high volume of traffic on Clyde Street, linking off the roundabout. We have concerns around the students putting out their signs when there's not enough distance for the cars to stop in time. So when they're coming off on one side, the first sign goes out okay, but then the second sign, cars are continuing to carry on over that crossing, where it's putting the children at risk when they're putting those signs out. We've spoken to the teachers who are on road patrol there. They say they feel really worried and quite stressed when they are working out on that crossing. So the key, and it's along with bus stops on either side, so you've not just got students crossing there, you've got university students, you've got a lot of other college students getting to other schools from that crossing trying to get across. There's not really any other areas further up that they can get across safely up by the university. You've got the Foursquare just up from it, so you've got cars coming out of there along with that bus stop right there as well. Which cause huge congestion and obstruction with the bus there, so meaning that cars then swerve around the bus to try and get across. I've witnessed myself multiple times where cars have carried on blocking the crossing when it's clearly a crossing and the students can't get that sign out either. So it's putting huge risk on the students. So our priority is making sure the students get to school safely. High volume on scooters and bikes from Cameron Road area. And the school has provided a letter from the principal as well, saying that the infill housing, there's only going to be an increase. There's a lot of family who are living within that apartment, living around Cameron Road area, who are trying to get their kids safely to school. And there's limiting parking around there for them to get any closer to the school. So what school has identified, they've got a walking group that go from the other side. They're wanting to create a side on Cameron Road side. We'd be all for that in terms of trying to get them safely to school. Our office, our Hamilton East Base office, is just down from there, so we do have regular times where we go down and witness how the students are getting them across. And yeah, it's just huge risk. I've gone out there personally myself and had to stand there on the road with my high vis on. Cars are still going past us. It's crazy that they're not even stopping for police on that crossing. So yeah.
That was really clear. All right, we've got some questions. I'll just go, Councillor, seat 14. Who's seat 14?
For your presentation. Sorry. Just to be clear, so is it? I'm looking at it now. So it's basically that crossing on Clyde Street by the Foursquare. Is that the one
Correct.
you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So currently there's a crossing there.
Yep.
People don't tend to stop, and when the school comes in, they bring the signs from school and,
Yes.
and like the lollipops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Would you say, thanks for coming in, appreciate it. Would you say this is a problem at every school in Hamilton, not just this one here, that every school in Hamilton needs a review of this? Because Forest Lake, Norton, Te Rapa, I can give you a list. Would that be, in your opinion, that we need to look at a whole lot of schools?
In terms of overall, this is probably the biggest risk area would be this crossing. Having done all the different schools throughout Hamilton this year, this is the one we've identified as the main one right now that needs improvement. Yeah.
Fair answer. Councillor Rachel.
Question has been answered, but I thank you for coming in this morning, because I actually see that every morning on the drive to school and in the afternoon when I do have the opportunity to pick my kids up. Thank you.
Councillor Leo.
Thank you. I hear two problems here. So one is car blocking the crossing. The other one is cars still passing when it's supposed to stop. So how can we help to change the driving behavior of the drivers of those cars?
I guess from our perspective, we're trying to do our part by getting down there and being visible at times of helping, but obviously our resources are stretched with the amount of schools that we are trying to help support. So it would be around, I guess the lights would be a key. Otherwise, a way of slowing the traffic down with bumps in the road, if that can be an option to create the slower speed.
Do they get fines when it's supposed to stop but they don't?
Yes, we can give them fines. Yep, so there's an actual ticket for the crossing one. Yep, we do. We are, in terms of our visibility in our team, we are quite big on foot patrols around the schools, around having a presence. Like if we see someone on their phone, we can give tickets for that, around the distraction as well, coming towards the crossings. We see that quite a lot. The no seatbelts on, the kids unrestrained. So there's a number we can do. Tickets for inconsiderate parking. There's a whole number of tickets that we've been giving. Parking on the footpath is another one within school, so a whole lot of ones when they block the crossings. So yeah, we are doing our part to try to give out tickets when we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, Councillor Andrew. I'm going to assume you're seat 15. I don't know. Maybe someone else could be. That might be.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Sue. Yeah.
We're numbers today. Yeah. Thank you so much for your submission. Really valuable with your knowledge of most of the network around, so that's very useful. You made mention of the proximity to the roundabout, I would almost say that that was Hamilton's first been about, that particular one, with the shape of it. Is the location of the pedestrian crossing of concern as well as, you know, how the signalisation is happening? Because you've made particular reference to its proximity to the roundabout, so I just wanted to understand, in your view, watching all the kind of school traffic happening around the city, does it need relocation as well?
Yeah, it is quite close to that roundabout, like especially we've seen afternoon mornings where they're blocking, even when they're putting those signs out, the whole roundabout's now congested because cars can't get through and people continue on that roundabout and they're stuck. But then when you've got the bus stops just down from there, there's not much movement to be able to move it much further down, along with the warehouse just further down from that. So you're limited as to where you can put the crossing there. Yeah.
So relocation wouldn't probably solve the problem that you're alerting us to.
No.
Because I hear what you say about the driver behaviour, but I wonder how much of that is related to everything that's going on in that locality rather than they are deliberately driving through signage, because it's quite busy, there's lots going on and there is that roundabout and that type of thing,
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes the teachers do leave the signs out for quite some time because they've got such a line of kids trying to get across that then it keeps banking up is another issue there, yeah.
Thank you.
I have Councillor Robbie.
Lisa, thank you for coming in for your submission. I have intimate knowledge. My daughter attended that school and I live nearby and I have seen everything you've mentioned today. What I want to ask is what, and Councillor Moroney may have brought this up as well, it's 100 years old, that school, and would lights be sufficient, or are there other things that we may need to look into to ensure that this doesn't happen? Because it is absolute chaos in the morning and in the afternoon there. And that's a lot down to public and parents who are ignoring the signs, et cetera, and the rules, because they're very clear. And as a parent, so...
Well, on my team, we've discussed it as well. The other option will be putting some speed bumps in as well to slow that traffic flow down, and that seems to be quite effective at some of the schools to create some speed reduction. Yeah.
And I am just allowing extra time because it's actually very rare that we have police come in. And there's high interest in this given the priority that you've put on this, so we'll continue with questions. Thank you. Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. My question is about the alternatives like speed bumps or islands. Would that create possible interference with emergency services such as the police needing to get down that road pretty quickly, or fire trucks as well?
I don't believe so, given the amount of speed bumps throughout Hamilton that we navigate. So maybe it'll be our cars that aren't, some of them are not fit for purpose for the bumps, but yeah, they definitely, it shouldn't impact that, no.
Thank you.
All right. I did have one question as well, Akessa, and that is, say if we have traffic lights up and we then still have people driving through, what measures can be taken around that enforcement? For example, if you or your colleagues can't be there in person, are there options around us having cameras that could be retrospectively, with footage able to be retrospectively looked through, that would provide evidence? Or, just given that we're struggling to get NZTA to put any safety cameras in, are there any other options that would help with this?
What we usually find is the schools get in touch with us about specific incidents, so they do email us about registrations, and we highly encourage that. So we've got evidence of, say, if there's been a dangerous crossing that they've witnessed, so parents get in touch with the school and tell us.
So say something like a camera that could then be referred back to if there's an incident would be helpful?
Beneficial, with city cameras, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Otherwise, we will let Akessa go, but thank you very much for coming in this morning and answering our questions. All right. We will move to the confirmation of minutes. I will move and Councillor Mesh will second. Are there any concerns with those minutes? Or if we're all happy, we'll go to the vote to accept those. All those in favour? Thank you.
Motion is carried unanimously.
All right. We are now on to minor transport improvements program and macro scope approval for Beta connection to bikes on pipes. So we'll welcome Robin Denton and Kirsty coming up as well. Yeah. Let's go with up here. Yes. So I'll put up, before we begin, I'll put up the motion which I think is worth just going through now, so that if there are any questions, then everyone can ask that as we, while staff are available here. Right, and so for the benefit of any of the public watching, option 5B is not in the report that's online, but we have provided a link to it here, which will be available in the minutes. And essentially, that is looking at just doing the shared path connection that connects the bikes on pipes shared path to the shared path that comes out onto, is it Peacock Road, and it comes out from the esplanade there, and that there would be a at-grade mid-block pedestrian crossing. It would just be with a refuge island rather than signalised, so we're just clarifying it actually won't have signals, it will just have a refuge in the middle that is big enough for people with bikes to stop on. And that will be a total of 1.1 million compared to the original budget we're looking at was around 2 million for the wider scope of works. Right, we then go to approving a revised scope of work for the Lloyd Drive traffic calming project, and the change there is to trial the use of temporary or removable speed cushions rather than going straight to putting in permanent ones. So that's because it's a bit different than what we'd agreed last meeting, that's just coming for a clarification. We then are asking our staff to report back on opportunities to consider the residents' requests in regard to both footpath and shared path improvements on Waterford Road and on Peacock Road. And what we're saying is if we have savings within the future budget that we haven't identified yet, then those could be brought back to us earlier to consider, but otherwise we're asking staff to bring them to us to consider after the long-term plan, once we've signed off our budgets there, and if there is adequate funding to support further improvements, they would be considered along with the list of other projects that I'm sure that we will have at that point. Then there is a request for staff to report back also on options to address issues at Bremworth Avenue, McMeekin Avenue and Knighton Primary School, so in response to today's submissions. Now, staff will be clear that there is not currently funding in the budget, but again, if there are savings, we can weigh up what we might prioritise, otherwise these will be up for consideration following the long-term plan. Right, and then finally, just a clarification in regard to the Norton Quiet route, that we will see information come through the traffic, or what is it, the transport subcommittee, and also executive update as that progresses. Okay, I think I've gone through everything there. For people watching online as well, as some context, there is also a roundabout that is being done at the same time as the shared path, if that goes ahead, which connects Peacock, Waterford and one other street. Which is part of the Peacock Development Program. All right. A very long motion. So now, if there's no other updates, then we'll take it as read and open up for questions from elected members. All right. Councillor Anna.
Thank you. It was more a question in relation to the motion, just some clarification, I guess.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure if it's the motion. So in the agenda, the option is listed as number 5.
Yep.
So we've proposed a different one, which is 5B.
Yep.
I just for people online, I guess, just to describe some of the rationale behind the delay in the choice with
yes.
5B.
Okay.
Yeah, just around the waterworks in particular, I
Yes.
thought was quite relevant, and it's just not mentioned.
Yes.
So yeah.
So in the motion, it does note when it talks about Waterford Road, it talks about the need for any improvement works to be aligned with planned water infrastructure works and renewals works. So there in 2028 currently is the time frame. There's plans to put some significant water infrastructure down Waterford Road, and there are also plans for renewals in terms of curb and channel. So what wouldn't make sense is for us to spend money on footpaths and shared paths running along there only to have them potentially damaged during that work or needing to be digged up. And also there's an opportunity to reduce costs overall by taking advantage of any traffic management and road closures that would happen at that time if we were to proceed with those improvements. The same issue doesn't apply for the Glenview Club section of footpath. That could be considered earlier. So that is a smaller cost as well. So there is potentially that opportunity to consider that earlier, but it just depends on how the rest of our program goes in terms of whether contingencies are required or savings can be made through things like efficiencies with traffic management things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. We'll go to Councillor Mesh.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for all of the work that has gone into reshaping this, because when we first looked at this pre-workshop, it looked quite different. So appreciation for how it looks today and how that the thoughts of the elected members has been incorporated into this. The question that I have, I actually have a couple, is there are a number of options. 5B is what we are looking at. Can you tell us what issues might arise if we don't choose 5B?
Thank you for your kind comments. So 5B is kind of piggybacking off the work that's already planned in the area. So as already mentioned, there's a wastewater pipe coming down Waterford Road, but there is also a significant stormwater pipe that's going to be installed on Peacocks Road, so that's the road that runs between Beta and Fitzroy, and that is planned to go ahead kind of no matter what. To do that, they're going to completely close the road, so within that time frame, it's a great opportunity for us to come back and build something back a little bit better. On top of that, Connect Hamilton are looking at doing a reseal through this section, so again, it's building back a little bit better than what's there now, and incorporating, savings through traffic management. As alluded to, there's a roundabout proposed at the intersection of Waterford and Peacocks Road and Plateau Drive. That is a design is being aligned with our shared path, so that if we build them both together, again we make savings and less impact on the local residents. They've kind of gone through quite a lot already. So we want to make it as efficient for them as possible.
Thank you. And my other question is, in terms of the cost breakdown, are the figures P50, are they based on previous work? How do those figures get arrived at?
So the way I've built these figures is based off the panel contract. So they've given us a number of rates. I use the worst case scenario of all three. And so we don't get one supplier coming through, it just is the worst of all three. When I say worst, I mean highest. And then I add on a percentage for things like staff time, design time, community engagement, data collection and audits, as well as a 15% contingency. So it's not based off previous projects, it's based off rates we currently have. And then I add on, based off other projects, I add on a percentage that we usually spend on those other elements to create a project cost versus a construction cost.
Thank you. And if I can just take you back to the highest costs, the worst case. So we take the worst case cost and then we add a contingency on top of
Correct.
that?
Yeah.
Do we normally do that?
So when I say the worst case cost, because we have 3 suppliers, and their rates vary significantly in some cases of the different elements. It's obviously not up to me to choose which supplier we go with, so I'm just using, again, the kind of highest cost scenario. If we picked the highest person to deliver, we'd probably get these rates. So that just builds in a little bit of extra fat, but also ensures that whoever we go with, we can actually afford to pay them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, can I have Councillor Rachel?
For the report. My question is a reasonably general one. We had a police officer here this morning who made the statement that the Knighton school area is the absolute priority in terms of the school's network within Kirikiriroa. And this has not been on the radar before, and yet we're looking at other schools. My question is, how do we get a sense of prioritisation? Because this has been an issue for a long time, and yet we're prioritising other things based on what we're hearing in the chamber when people turn up.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one because certainly from all schools' perspective, the situation that they have at their school gate is, in their opinion, the worst in the country, not just the city. And I think it is a really tricky one, and it's trying to work out, well, how do you prioritise? So we can do things like traffic volumes and number of children. So they're the sorts of things that we can put in place, but at the end of the day, it is that behaviour, and that's what the police have the unique opportunity to see when they're going out and doing that training with the kids each year. We're certainly happy to continue to work with the police and try and identify how we prioritise in the future. We certainly are keen to carry on looking at all schools crossings, and that's been a sort of an ongoing program that we've had, is to look at each school and try and make sure that we're getting their crossings to the best standard possible.
Thank you. My next question is, I'll just give you an example from the report. So in relation to Bremworth Avenue, 6 crashes recorded in the crash analysis system in the 10 years ending in 2005. I guess my question is, because that in and of itself doesn't tell me very much. And so when we're looking at the bikes on pipes proposition, we have 1 serious injury relating to a cyclist and 1 serious injury relating to a pedestrian in a 10-year period. And we're looking to invest 1.1 million because of safety. But how do we, are there any objective measures or benchmarks about what's recommended in different spaces with similar features so that we can actually get a sense of this information gives us an indication that this is low risk, therefore we can park it to the LTP, or this information tells us that this is high risk and it must be prioritised? Because this really, how can we...
Yeah. So I guess that's the difficulty that we have with this. When it comes to quantitative data, obviously the reported crashes is a starting point. But it is being very clear that data is really dependent on the police having attended a crash and having furnished a report that goes through to the system. And I think that we've heard from a lot of the residents groups that there is a lot of behaviour and or crashes that are not being attended by police and are not being put into the system. So then I guess our challenge is to provide at least the quantitative data to elected members. That's that which we have. The qualitative data is, then we are reliant a lot on people's lived experiences, and that's where those resident submissions, petitions, schools, etc. are very valuable. It's really hard for staff to be able to, you know, and going to do a site visit for an hour or two to actually be able to give an answer that says this site is definitely worse than another. When it comes to the bikes on pipes, I think one of the things that also comes into the mix is that you've got some really great facilities at either end of this proposed project, and you've got a section in between that's not to an appropriate standard. You won't necessarily have safety stats showing up there because people are smart enough to realise that it's not safe, and so they choose not to walk or cycle in those areas. So if anything, it may be that the lack of people doing it is one of those things that you can pop into the mix. But yes, you've identified basically the difficulty we have is we cannot give you an exact numerical answer that says this site is worse than this site.
Okay. Last question. There was some information circulated in terms of the breakdown of the 1.1 million. And part of that was for engagement and communications, internal and external, was $15,000. And in a recent council meeting, an estimate that was given for the cost of consultation on a redesignation was, I think, $3,000 or $4,000. So I'm just trying to understand why the difference when the exercise should be relatively similar.
Yeah, so again, that is based off a percentage of the construction cost, based off other projects, but will include things like drop-in sessions, staff time, the Have Your Say page, all the printed collateral that we may need. So, yeah, it does feel like a lot, but it will be money that is spent on consultation.
But presumably a consultation on something else would require the same components that you've just mentioned.
Yep, I can have a look at those figures and compare them to other projects if it's...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also it is worth noting that each project and even a designation may be public notices and fairly high level. It doesn't necessarily have those community drop-in sessions. It doesn't necessarily have us spending time door knocking and those sorts of more intensive activities. So definitely worth a review, but just mindful that each project, depending on where it is, what the impact is going to be. Is it just about this local community? Is it something that's going to affect a wider community? The Peach Grove Boys High, for example, the amount of engagement that's happening in that is significantly higher than other projects.
It would be good to better understand all of that, because the designation for the water reservoir did include meetings with the public, for example. So, yeah, I think, yeah, thank you.
Cool.
We'll take that as a staff action. So it'll be noted as a staff action to come back to elected members around the consultation estimates.
So through the chair, we'll definitely take that. The other thing to mention is we've heard clearly that on minor transport projects, and lots of them, that we're wanting more engagement. So we're trying to factor that into any of our projects as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I go to the next question, I think it's worth also raising, Councillor Mesh and I have been working with staff around the decision-making framework, and due to capacity issues, it wasn't able to come today, but what we're looking at is setting up a workshop for elected members to be able to read through what's been prepared and provide feedback. That includes that aspect of prioritisation when you're putting together the list in the first place of projects, and also would be looking for feedback on what would be helpful in project reports, for example. So really looking forward to engaging with the committee very soon on that in time, so we can have that ready in time for then the long-term plan and future program, if there is one. Yep. Okay. Right. Let's go to Councillor Graham.
Chair Sarah. I've got a few questions. For the design work that we've got for this, is that done in-house or is it done by contract on these jobs?
That's done externally. It's done externally.
Do we not have the staff that can do that currently?
We don't have the staff capacity to do that internally.
Do we have a full study of all the Hamilton school hotspots and all the Hamilton speed spots? Because at the moment, I feel we're being very reactionary to who's squealing the loudest. Because we've got a range of streets around Hamilton that I can probably name that have speed problems and a range of schools that have the same problems, but we're reacting to one at a time. Do we actually have a study to say, this is where we're going as a council? Because this is costing a lot of money to do individually. You know, 16,000 here, 4,000 there, 8,000 there. Do we have that study of all the school hotspots and speed spots in Hamilton?
School hotspots, no. When it comes to speed management, we do have a speed management plan that was developed back in about 23, 24. And that was part of what was then known as the Safer Speed Area program, which was where we were looking at putting permanent 40 kilometre an hour into residential areas. That had a program of prioritised work. Those priorities were based on crash data, traffic volume, speeds, and then we looked within those areas whether they had schools, retirement villages, kindies, anything that would generate more people sort of walking or cycling in those areas. So that was a prioritised program. We haven't had funding for ongoing delivery of those safer speed areas, but within the report today, we've sort of highlighted that McMeekin and Bremworth, where they were in that original piece of work.
I'm just confused why we're sort of heading to ones when we haven't finished the others. Like, we haven't had funding for the others, but we're starting new ones.
So we're responding to the request from elected members following their hearing of the public requests. So McMeekin and Bremworth were ones that elected members resolved for staff to investigate following the public forum.
And the last one I've got, if I can, it was my belief that the panels were established to get best price. So I can't understand why we're taking the dearest price and adding contingency. Shouldn't be taking the cheapest price and working from there, because have we got any information that by taking the highest price and adding contingency, that the lowest price one may have been just as good, but we're spending money we don't need to?
Yes, through Chair, I'll start on this and team can then chop in. So the first thing is, this is just an estimate, right? This is an estimate. We have panels set up and they have all of their rates across all of them. The rates vary a lot across individual items. So what you want to do is, you can't just go and pick the lowest from every single rate, because you'll end up with a price that you will not get from that panel, because they are different rates across the multiple parties that are put on the panel. But the key thing for me is, this is not the price that we will pay. We will go through a first principles review and process for the panel, for the three people on the panel, the three companies on the panel, and we will get the best rates through that, and that is what we will pay.
How many times has estimates that we've had with contingencies, have we come in well under that and that been reported back to council? We've got an estimate and said it's not what we're going to pay. It's gone through the council to say do that. How many of these have come back to the council to say we've spent 100,000 less or 200,000 less or 50,000 less? Because I haven't seen any of those in 7 months of being on council.
The attachment has those savings that have been reported for all of the work that has been completed, and those savings have been taken on board by elected members and reassigned.
So through the Chair, we reassign those in most of these meetings. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. No, just saying just because on the back of some of the information we tried to get earlier, it was very difficult to get that information correctly, wasn't it? And then we've come back with savings that I haven't been able to obtain from projects last year. So I'm not sure where we're at. Yeah. Sorry, thank you.
Councillor Graham, are you looking for some reporting back on projects, basically, to see what was the estimated cost and the actual cost?
Surety of
at the end?
cost.
Yeah.
So attachment one, I guess, was my attempt to give elected members for the projects that we have completed, to give elected members an indication of what the budget was and whether we've made savings or not, and also captures where those savings have been reassigned and spent on either other projects or they were put into the line item which was for future assignment.
Okay, so maybe what we can do is, Councillor Graham, if you've got particular projects out of that list where you're looking for clarity, send them through to me following the meeting.
Well, no, what I'm saying is we did that before Christmas and up until March and we couldn't identify the true cost and now we can, so I'm just confused.
So through the chair, we can't quantify the full cost until we build something, so.
Okay, so we'll continue that one offline, shall we, in terms of getting clarity on any projects where there is some still lacking. All right, I will go to Councillor, Sue, you have a name.
I do. We've all got names now. Thank you. Thanks so much for the reports. I'm going to come into the Bikes on Pipes project, so I'm coming back to that issue. The waterworks that are happening in 2028 or plan to work in 2028, are they in the jurisdiction of Hamilton City Council or are they ERY?
They'll be EOI by that stage.
Okay. So what level of certainty do we have about the timing of those works?
So what they've put in their water services strategy, those are still in there. So that's the best that we've got at the moment. So it's as good as our LTP and what we deliver. So it's much certainty as we can get through the process. Yes, they're still in there.
Okay, thank you.
I would just add for that specific project, they have already started the work, just not through that section. So the pipeline runs from the Te Anau pump station to the new storage tank. They've already started the work. So I would expect they're basically on time.
So you can, so you're tracking that progress with regard to
Yes.
the decision that we've got in front of us today.
Yep.
And I would say that the work is due to finish in 2028, not start in 2028.
Oh, thank you. Finish in 2028. Great.
And through the chair as well, we're working closely with current staff and with the future staff in EOI to make sure that we're on top of their program and our program, and we're coordinated as much as we can do.
Great, that's what I wanted to hear.
Thanks.
And you talked about the potential, or someone talked about the potential savings, it may have been the chair, the potential savings of combining traffic management processes, et cetera, with those two pieces of work. Do you have any ballpark figures for the type of savings that are achieved when we take that approach?
Not to hand.
So not to hand, but I think one thing is we will be bringing back the bottom end of Cambridge Road, and that is a place where we combined a couple of pieces of work, and then we'll get some advice or some quantum of the savings we made in that project.
Great, thank you. You also made reference to Hamilton Connect, did I get that right? Connect Hamilton?
Connect Hamilton.
Connect Hamilton, I knew I'd get those words around the wrong way. Again, can I just ask the same set of questions, really? What certainty do we have around the timing of those, that work as well?
So I guess, again, it's dependent on LTP, and they are working through a program based on asset need. They have been working very closely with the Three Waters team and have actually delayed doing some of the pavement and curb works, knowing that this was coming up, and so that they can follow in behind. So that's certainly their planning, that they're trying to make sure that we get a logical outcome out on the road as well.
Thank you. And on this proposal 5B, I think we've called it now, you talked about, or no, again, it might have been the chair who talked about this. Someone talked about having really excellent piece of infrastructure here and an excellent piece of infrastructure here, that this is connecting the two so that we can leverage all the infrastructure being used properly. Can you just talk a bit about why that's important to actually connect the two bits of infrastructure that currently exist? I just need to understand a bit more detail about what that looks like.
Yeah, so the two pieces of infrastructure are really, really high levels of service. And if we don't connect them, they're unlikely to get used as much as if we connect them. And if we also don't connect them and people do try and use both of them, we are putting them at risk. So if we have children or elderly people try and use both pieces and they can't get between them, they're likely to do something unsafe.
So 5B will definitely connect those two high-level pieces in a way that makes the whole thing usable?
Correct.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So the what was known as the Bikes on Pipes project is a purely off-road cycling walking facility.
Yep.
And then it goes into the esplanade that comes out near Colwyn Drive. So they're both really good quality facilities where people are, completely separated from cars. It's just that little piece in between.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Right, Councillor Jamie.
We have a long list.
Yeah.
Just a question about McMeekin Ave residents, the McMeekin Ave residents. So line 61, the staff recommendation is to engage with residents. Looks like a community drop-in session, which I think is a good idea. I just can't see that reflected in the motion, but is that covered in the motion, the drop-in session?
Basically, the motion is asking us to bring back the results and some recommendations to the next meeting. So that is the intention. If everyone approves that today, that we will get on and organise those drop-in sessions. And
that would be the process.
Just trying to understand better what the community's issues are, where they are, and the sort of treatments that they're willing or want to have it put in place, along with some more data. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Right. Councillor Leo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is around bikes on pipes. Bikes on pipes, not parks, pipes. First question is, what is the projected daily usage after completion?
Of cyclists?
Yeah.
So we don't have projected numbers, but in the report there are figures of current usage.
Thank you. Second question, just to build on Councillor Richard's question. How success be measured after completion, and how do we measure the actual behaviour change from previous jobs?
So the way I'll measure success on this project is by the increased number of pedestrians and cyclists, not only on Bikes on Pipes, like the facility that's there now, but the connection that we are putting in. And probably the type of user, so if we have younger or older users than we currently do. And what was the second question, sorry?
This is the second question. So you're saying we are putting a $1.1 million investment, but we don't know the outcome is going to be like? Because you said there's no projected usage.
Well, we know the current usage, so we will benchmark ourselves off the current usage.
Thank you. The third question is around price. So you said the price is from the panel contract, and we have 3 suppliers on the panel. Does that mean this contract will not be tendered?
I'll pass to Kevin on that one. He's answered that.
Yeah, through the chair, the proposal was to use that panel. That's why we set up the panel for projects like this to go through. So that was a competitive process to go through, and we ended up with the best 3 prices on that panel.
So that means this project is not going to be tendered?
It will go through the procurement process of the panel. So no, not out to open tender as you're
so there's
alluding.
Won't be tendered.
But it has been through an open tender process to get onto the panel, is what I want to be clear with. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just in regard to Councillor Leo's question around usage and monitoring that, is that something that we could kind of have come back to us after a certain period of time around post-construction?
Yes, absolutely. This is something that we probably want to be moving forward with, is actually realising the benefits of doing these types of projects and making sure that we have the data to be able to prove that.
Yeah. So is it a staff action that we take then that after, well, I guess maybe it's a year, I won't, determine that on the spot, but that we see that monitoring?
Yeah, yes, we'll be doing that on all of our projects, and you'll see that first one of those will be the work that we've done on the bottom end of Cambridge Road.
Okay, all right, thank you. Right, Councillor Emma.
Thank you. Benefit of being last on the, or next to last on the list. Most of my questions have been answered. I have a couple on bikes and pipes. So I note 7 CRM requests between 2022 and 23 raising concerns, and then 14 in 2025 alone. Can you tell us how the installation of the new bridge and recent developments may have already impacted traffic patterns and safety concerns? And secondly, can you speak to how option 5B and the roundabout might continue to increase these, and how they might help mitigate these concerns now and for the future?
Yep. So when the bridge opened in September of 24, traffic volumes significantly changed going down here, and we picked that up very quickly through the CRMs that we received. So not only is it volume, but it's speed. So coming down the Waterford Hill, speed is picking up. We have an 85th percentile of 55 kilometres per hour, which is quite high for this kind of area. Whatukururu Drive is due to open on the 21st of June, which is on Monday. We may get some reprieve, I guess, in the short term, as people may try and use the new road, but that road is designed slightly differently, so I think people will go back and try and use the Waterford Peacocks kind of cut through to use the bridge. The roundabout will help slow traffic down. So it will give everyone just an opportunity to slow down as they come round and give way to any traffic coming through. Roundabouts work best when traffic volumes are relatively even, and 3 legs are pretty even. So Plateau Drive obviously has something like 20 houses down it, so it won't get a lot of traffic at this stage, but we do expect the roundabout to be a decent slower of traffic through there. Another issue that has been raised through those CRMs is with the traffic volumes increasing and the speed increasing, it's been more difficult to cross the road. So there's no form of pedestrian crossing along this entire length. So the roundabout will provide 2 opportunities for that, and then through the Bikes on Pipes piece of work, we're also looking at a 3rd opportunity for people to cross.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anna.
Thank you. Just a question on the Clyde Street Knighton School work that you're going to do, hopefully. One of the questions that was raised by Akiza was around, well, one of the issues was around the buses pulling out and etc. So I'm just asking, is there a way that you could, will you work with the Regional Council to get that information and determining what would best enable the buses to get through there adequately, because it's the Meteor route, isn't it, as well?
Yes. So we'll certainly, if the resolution goes through, we'll be looking to have a good look at all of those components at that site, and certainly the proximity to the roundabout is a tricky one, but when you look at where some of the key generators, where people are coming from for Cameron Road, if we move it too far away, we think people won't bother using it. So trying to find that balance. But yes, we'll certainly be talking to Regional Council, and that route is one of the key routes for further investment in the future. So we've got to keep that in mind too as we move forward.
Great. And just a quick question on the bikes on pipes. The original staff recommendation was for option 3, and that had a number of, I think, improvements for the Beta community, it looked like. So will those sections come to us through the LTP? Because I'm still interested in that.
Yes, they will. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Chair Sarah, I missed a couple from the first time round. Can I go back to design costs of 59,000 that have worked outside? At $100 an hour, that's 590 hours or 4 months' work permanent for one person. That seems like an awful lot.
Yes, so our rates for designers, external designers, are set through the collab contract that we have with a number of suppliers. Their rates are more than $100 an hour, which would indicate less hours. And there is some significant design involved in this piece of work.
And you do have multiple people working on the project at a time. It includes things like having to do surveys, doing a bit of modelling work and all of those sorts of things. So it's projects are never delivered by just one person doing the design work.
Understand that, so even if we made it $200 an hour, that's still 280 hours, which is nearly 7 weeks, permanent for one person, which seems like an awful lot.
That's the complexity of these jobs. By the time you work through, you know, working out where all your services are, working out your drainage levels, all of those sorts of things. Yes. Unfortunately, minor improvements are really hard to design because you're trying to fit within a lot of fixed parameters, existing driveways, existing infrastructure, those sorts of things. A greenfields development is a lot easier because you basically go through with big machinery and create what you need to work. It's the difficulty of minor improvements is trying to fit and make everything work within everything else that's already in place.
The panel, 3 pricing panel we're using, when was that panel established?
The 3 pricing panel is for physical works.
Yeah, when was that established?
That was established, was it, I think, the end of the last triennium from memory?
Is that 24, 25, 23?
No, just like towards the end of last year, wasn't it?
It was just, I think it was,
So their prices are reasonably current?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that still what makes me worry why we're taking the dearest one if we've got current prices.
Just to clarify that again, the dearest price is for the estimate, not what we will pay. Thank you. Yeah.
The other one I've got is when we've got a motion like this is probably more for Sarah, when we've got a motion like this with so many different parts, the council's been at times passing them all as one, and later there's parts of it we may not want and some of us may do. Putting it through as one, it's meaning we don't have enough time to break them out. Is there a way we can break them into individual stuff?
So I'm happy to, we did last time.
Okay.
So actually last meeting we did break it all up and we had probably the longest consecutive button pushing episode we've had in this chamber.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to do that again. Kieran, are you able to break that into bits that make sense? I'd probably keep the Peacock and Waterford together unless there's any objections to that. That's just staff bringing things back if the opportunity rises. Yep. Okay,
and the last question I've got is when we've done infrastructure improvements, when and how have we collected data? Because we said we build it, they come. Do we have that data from those things where we can say we've got actual data before we started and actual improvement or changes when we finish? Do we have that data and where do we find it?
For some sites we do. It's not been work that we've traditionally done, but as per Kevin's undertaking, that is something that we are going to be doing more of.
Is that before and after?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
all right. Councillor So.
If we were to, I'm now thinking about the panel process, if we were to do our estimates on the lowest possible outcome, would that predetermine or restrict the ability for the panel to fairly decide who's going to do the work based on the significant work that isn't done in an estimation process?
I think it would be risky to use the lowest values of all three. So similar how I've used the maximum values of all three, because you're very unlikely to get all those lowest values from one supplier. So you might be kind of undercutting what it actually could cost. Quite often, contractors will put some extra on certain items so that they, make a bit more money, and we need to manage that as we move through. So.
You would be surprised, sorry, through the chair, when you look at the base rates that you get across any tender, they are not the same at all. They are swings and roundabouts on those. So you can't go through picking the lowest one from each one, because you'll end up with an unrealistic price that you would not get. What we might do is, for our estimates, we might look at using a median or something going forward, but that's something we will consider, yes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe there's something that, an undertaking there to have another look at that, and that could come back. Okay. All right. Do we have any more questions? We don't currently. Okay, I do have just one question, two questions myself. One is, the river path is extremely well used. We're getting more people finding out about the peacock paths. How will this, if it goes ahead, how will the availability of this be promoted so people know it exists?
Yep, so we will be doing, so as part of the Peacocks Whatukururu Drive opening, there's going to be some advertising of Bikes on Pipes, because it does connect through to Whatukururu Drive. And then I would like our team to undertake a celebratory day once the connection's put in, to, I guess, encourage people to use it, give it a go, and once you kind of start using it, it opens it up.
And second question is, how do you see usage changing or evolving with this connection when more houses are built in Peacock?
Well, using Bikes on Pipes, or using Whatukururu Drive and then onto Bikes on Pipes, will be the most direct route into the CBD and the hospital. Yeah. And to the CBD, it will basically be almost all off-road. It'll be about 90% off-road. So if you're talking about people who are not confident, you're likely to start seeing changes to that. And that may not be to go to work, that might just be to take a recreational ride, or to go to a cafe as well. Yeah. So I do expect usage to increase as Peacocks grows.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's then, we don't have any questions online, so I think we can move to the actual motions for this. So, yep. All right, so these have now been broken up. Councillor Mesh, you still happy to be seconder for each of them, but we'll just vote on each of these separately. So let's then move to the first one, and we'll go to the, Shivers, sorry, we're going to have debate, yes. I was just rushing right into it. Don't worry, we will have debate. I was thinking something went wrong right there. Let's open it up for debate. So jump on up. I will wait for. There we go. Okay, Councillor. And then I'll go after that.
Thank you. When I looked at this decision, or series of decisions as it now is, I was looking to see whether the scope was proportionate to the problem, that the costs have been scrutinised, and that this is not simply taking the opportunity to add in additional works because works were already happening there. So for me, the evidence wasn't just one particular thing in isolation. What I saw was a corridor where concerns have been consistently raised about crossing opportunities, pedestrian access, traffic conditions, particularly around the Peacocks Road and Waterford area. The question for me wasn't whether there was a crisis that demands an immediate response. The question was whether there was a genuine issue that warrants a proportionate response. So I note that option 5B focuses on a more targeted scope, noting the subsections D and E, which reflect concerns raised by residents, which have been explicitly noted for further consideration. I note the potential to coordinate this work with water and renewal works. On its own, for me, that wouldn't justify the investment, but there is a case for doing something, but where there is already a case for doing something, I think it's sensible to consider whether it can be delivered more efficiently. Finally, support for this option should not be interpreted as approval for further stages of the program. Any future sections, I would expect to come back on their own merits with their own evidence, costs and justification. Thank you.
Everything, so if you wanted to comment on anything else.
Yep, no, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, Councillor Rachel.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the staff for the work that was done in terms of the scope of the bikes on pipes and the reduction in the scope and the costs, and also for coming to these meetings, fronting up and answering some hard questions and the grace with which they've done that. So thank you. I entirely support safer cycling and footpath improvement. I do believe we need to be thinking about, the present, but also future generations, and I would hate to, miss an opportunity for our future generations. But the question for me is really when we incur the expenditure. Right now in our current predicament, I really only want to be doing what is absolutely necessary. Back to basics approach. A general comment in terms of our reports, I really believe it would be helpful to have more information to support our decision making. The quantitative information, a bit of context would be really helpful. What does this all mean? Is it low risk and it can wait? Is it medium risk and we can push it to the LTP? Is it high risk and therefore we must do it? I continue to be concerned about projects being driven by complaints from the public in this particular forum, rather than through a strategic review resulting in a prioritised list through evidence and risk assessments. We have other residents who raise things through other channels, and where do these things sit? How are they being dealt with? Should we be telling people to come to the chamber because that's the most effective way to be heard? And I'm not saying I don't value public submitters, because no, for me it's more about how do we get visibility of what is the priority or what is not being done because we are prioritising something that we have heard about in the chamber. I note the comment about responding to elected member direction, but I would be more than happy to hear in staff reports about what their advice is in terms of what we need to be prioritising. Just on bikes and pipes, I'm not 100% convinced we need to do it now, but I do understand the logic of doing the work at the same time as other work is being done and the cost efficiencies that will drive that. So on that basis, I will be supporting the motion in its entirety. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Sue.
Thank you, Chair. Look, the only contribution I really want to make to this debate is the one that I have probably warned everyone I would be a broken record on, and that is that if we wait until the demand is already there or exceeded for transport projects, we will end up like Auckland, and we won't be able to resolve it after the event, because that is the experience that we've seen, really, just up the road from us, that actually waiting until your roads are already clogged or the land has already been built on that you need for these projects is the road to nowhere. It is the road to actually having a clogged city and low economic productivity and livability for the people in the city if we do not seize these opportunities and work for the future, as well as making sure that it is affordable in the present. And I think that this range of proposals that we are considering here today do that. in a way that will make Hamilton a very livable city and will ensure that we are that city that people look to and go, gosh, didn't they do it well? Didn't they get ahead of it rather than waiting until it can't be done? So thank you. I will be supporting the motions.
Thank you. Councillor Anna.
Just quickly, I just want to support Councillor Rachel's suggestion around being strategic with these decisions. And I do love submitters coming in, but we do tend to hear from perhaps not hear from some of our communities who struggle with representation generally. So I'm thinking about the Beta community in particular, because some of the improvements through this project that could have been made to that for that community have been deferred, and I do think that is a shame, but I'm pleased it's going to get considered in the LTP. But yeah, I think a strategic approach where we can look at those equity issues as well is really important. Thank you.
Right, I'll speak. Oh no, Councillor Gray.
Could we get the motion so I can speak to one? 'Cause,
Yes, so we can bring it back up. We probably are going to struggle to keep it all on the screen though, because we've only. Are we able to? We could email the whole thing through again.
We certainly can, but we can bring them up each time you go into the vote. We'll put it up, the relevant motion up.
Did you need it up for your debate?
Because you're wanting us to debate on all four now?
Yes. Yeah. Did you?
Okay.
It is. It is in your emails. Should we email it again immediately? I can speak while you wait for that to come through, Councillor Graham. Unfortunately, it is just a really long motion which doesn't fit on one screen. So I'll speak now. In terms of the Bikes on Pipes connection, one of the reasons why this was prioritised when we workshopped options for the transport program last term was because you've got two pieces of really good infrastructure and a gap in between which stops those being used to their fullest potential. And clear messages that we heard from elected members at that time were prioritise where there are gaps that need filling and prioritise off-road cycling and walking facilities as much as possible compared to on-road. So that informed this decision here. If you look at the map on page 50, you can see, and you look at the transport network in Peacock, you can see this would be for many of the residents, new residents in Peacock, the fastest way to get to the central city via bike or walking, and potentially even faster than car generally, depending on your traffic. So I do see, as Peacock grows, this being a very popular way to get into the central city, into the hospital, but also we know people love and value our recreational paths here in Hamilton, and this would complete the loop that runs through Peacock that connects to the river path, and I think that it will be well used as long as people know about it. So it's really important that we do promote it once it is built. In terms of, I also agree with Councillor Rachel in terms of prioritisation going forward, that we're receiving a lot of ongoing requests from our community. What we will need to do is to do a high-level investigation of various issues, but then be able to weigh that up against all the other issues on the network. And so, as I mentioned before, we've got the decision-making framework process coming up. If elected members have good ideas around how we do that exercise of balancing different potential priorities, I really welcome feedback on that. Yep.
I've just sent you a second email with them and the parts.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yeah.
I've got the motion now, thank you. Thank you, Chair Sarah. With regards Beta Street 5B, I've been out with Mesh to that site. I've seen what needs to happen, and I think what we're going to do when we can afford it will fix some of those issues and will make that a whole lot safer. So, and Sarah, thank you for getting to the stage where we've had a major price reduction in that, and something that warms the cockles of my heart sometimes. The Lloyd Drive traffic calming, I'll speak to each of them as I go through. The Lloyd Drive traffic calming, again, I think, Sarah, the work you've done on that, and with the staff, we've got to a point where we can look at savings and alternatives and options, and that will be something we can work through, so it'll have my support on that to get to where we need to get to. The shared footpath along the outside of Glenview Club, does it need to happen now? It should have been done at the time of Peacocks, and for that I'm not saying is that a need to do now if we fix the other bit, and does it fit in? It just, that sort of doesn't, I'm not comfortable with that at the moment. That should have been fitted on the back of Peacocks, and now we're piecemealing at costs. The Bremworth McMeekin Ave Knighton Road, that I'll be voting against for the sole fact that we don't have enough information about the whole of our city. And I'll be bringing to the LTP something about we need a review of the whole city, so we're not actually doing piecemeal parts of it at a cost. What do our schools need? What do our streets need? And move on from that plan that we had many years ago that's never been finished. Because we're going back to stuff we've already been to, and we're going to start again. That's just more money. So I'll be voting against that for that reason. I'd like to see it as a whole city plan, not a piecemeal plan as we have now. And the Norton Road Quiet Stage, we spent $2.5 million so far. We've got to spend some more, and I'd like to see a full breakdown of how much we're going to spend. Therefore, I'll be voting against that until I do.
Okay. All right. If there are no other speakers, we will go to the vote, and we'll take each of these separately. So, beginning with A and B. Oh, sorry, A. We'll just receive the report.
Oh, and do you want to do both at the same time?
I'll allow everyone the opportunity to receive the report in case they don't support.
Okay.
We're just receiving the report. Okay.
Motion is carried unanimously.
All right, now we'll move to B, which is the Beta Bikes and Pipes connection for option 5B.
Motion is carried unanimously.
All right, now we'll scroll down to, oh no, there we go. All right, so now on to Lloyd Drive and the amended scope.
The motion is passed unanimously.
Okay. We're now on to the bringing back information on residents' requests for future consideration, subject to funding availability.
Motion is carried unanimously.
Okay, and then final one is asking staff to report back on potential options for these Bremworth, McMeekin Avenue and Knighton Primary School.
The motion is carried, noting one dissenting.
Okay.
Sorry, couldn't see who it was.
All right. Thank you. I think.
One more.
Oh, there's still one more. Okay, Norton Quiet Road. Okay, yes, all right. Right, so essentially we're just requesting staff provide further information as this project proceeds. It's a green project, and Councillor Mesh and I will be looking closely to make sure there's nothing in this project which, sorry, I shouldn't say anything anyway. Carry on. Oh. I'm being naughty.
The motion is carried, noting 1 dissenting, Councillor Mead dissenting.
Okay. All right. I think we'll take one more item and then have our morning tea break. We will go to Strategic Transport Initiatives with Paul Gower presenting. Welcome, Paul.
And Tony Denton.
Oh, and Tony Denton is also presenting as well. Okay. Have water. Now, is everyone happy to take this as read and go straight to questions? Or if there's any desire for an... Yes? All right. So we will take it as read and move straight into questions. Right, do we have questions? Councillor So.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. I think that this is really where the rubber starts hitting the road when we look at the whole picture that I think Councillor Mead has been asking for. Questions around the city centre to airport multimodal corridor study and also the metro area park and ride site investigations. Are they planned to start or conclude in July 2026? I wasn't clear on that from the report.
I think they're more to start. We at the moment.
Sorry, I can't really hear that.
The airport study component, we're out exploring and testing with a couple of consultants in terms of cost to be able to deliver that piece of work. So it hasn't formally commenced at this stage.
Okay.
And I think there's a similar approach for the park and ride provisions as well. Most of those actually have budgets that are sitting in next financial year's period.
Right.
So we're just doing the procurement phases at this stage to lead into that.
Okay, so when would you expect then those investigations to begin and conclude?
Well, certainly they'll start before Christmas and certainly conclude before the June period next year.
Thank you. The Northern River crossing, have we thought about or done any investigations into the cost of yet another river crossing that will, on previous experience, likely be congested within a matter of years of it opening versus the same or a lower amount of investment into public transport as a way of addressing the congestion that you are forecasting for that area? It's a big question, but yeah, just want to understand what analysis we're doing around more very expensive infrastructure versus more investment into public transport. That's the question.
I think just describing the purpose for the Northern River crossing first might help with that question. Historically in the past we have built big pieces of kit such as the Puketi Bridge and the river crossing in the northern end of the city, and I'm sure that most of the councillors here, if they've driven on that part of the network during peak periods, will find it very congested and a challenge to get through at certain times of the day. The study for the Northern River crossing, when that bridge was constructed, recognised that there was a limited life for that at some stage, and there would be a need for a future river crossing somewhere to help relieve congestion, in particular in that particular bridge location. So that's one of the bigger justifications, I suppose, for the study to commence and be prepared for the future, so we can build that big piece of kit and provide the right element. In terms of public transport, there is nothing in the scope that would preclude public transport also using this particular corridor as part of that investment. So you might find you actually can get better east-west connectivity with the corridor as well for public transport than you're currently getting on the existing networks today.
Look, it's just really, it's an observation that we have, we are not investing in, we don't appear able to invest in getting faster and more frequent public transport as early as we need it, and investing in very big infrastructure like this. And what I'm really interested in is whether we do any analysis that suggests, and I know that we don't get the funding for the operationalisation of public transport, but is there anything that prevents this council from investing money in operationalising public transport instead of building more expensive road infrastructure to fix congestion?
What I probably didn't mention is this isn't the only project you see in the report in terms of looking after public transport just as much as everything else. So there's a whole range of other corridor investments that we'd like to bring to council and say, yep, invest in those just as much as a Northern River crossing. It's not saying that one's better than the other or anything like that, but there is some substantial elements that are needed to make our public transport network run more efficiently and more effectively. And there'll be significant costs as much as this potential future Northern River crossing as well.
Yes, but we do prioritise based on, you know, how much, when we're doing this long-term strategic planning, what I'm really looking for is some analysis about options around bringing forward our investment in public transport in order to perhaps not need this level of investment in more and more river crossings, which are our pinch points all the time. So I'm just trying to explore that really and what we do in that space when we're looking at the options. So yeah, I want to understand the analysis that we undertake as a council around spending options when we're trying to address congestion.
Probably. It's probably not something we've prepared for, obviously, in this meeting.
Yes, okay. Might be a long-term plan discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably the purpose of this report is to give a sense of the breadth of work that we are currently doing in the strategic planning. Now, there's lots of work around future corridors, what they might mean for general traffic, what they might mean for public transport, and how to move forward to a future as well. So there's lots of that work. We've also identified that there is other types of work as well. Now, they're presented slightly almost as separate from each other, but they're actually very integrated and often the shared outcomes coming across. So I think this report really is about kind of saying this is the breadth of work that we're doing, and here are some of the things as we look and move into the long-term plan. Here are some of the things that we are anticipating as being considerations for the 10-year plan. And so you'll see in the tables that far right-hand column, that's where we're kind of signalling these are the types of conversations that we would want to have as part of the long-term plan. And whether they become funded projects or if they are signalled projects as unfunded, that's a decision for council to make, yeah.
Thank you. Mayor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, guys, and thank you for giving me a bit of a briefing some months ago and also coming to the Central City Revitalisation Subcommittee. I just wanted to talk about the Anglesey Street PT corridor work. Are you able just to give a quick kind of, because I'm aware that there hasn't been a massive amount of visibility for this new council over that work. Are you able to just give a very quick summary of the scope of what you're looking at with Anglesey Street in terms of the PT stuff?
I'll have a crack. It probably is worth actually having, as we've suggested in here, more separate engagements on each one of these elements. I think you'll get more benefit out of that process of us bringing each one on its own and then seeing the whole collaboration between them all together as part of that exercise. The scope of work that we've been doing for Anglesey Street is a very high level at the moment in terms of giving you an indication. It's been trying to look at both the short, medium and long-term aspirations for how public transport would operate in that space, along with linking to the rest of the city. So we've got Metro Spatial Plan information that's been done a few years ago, and building on those in terms of those key networks, we re-investigated those to see whether those key networks were still viable, and it came back with a similar answer and solution. So then it moved down to the level of detail in terms of how those key routes all work together. In terms of LTP programs or things like that that might come for the Anglesey Street, there's some really cool decisions that we need to bring to council and get that engagement on that before saying this is the final product. And we do want to engage with everybody to understand exactly what we've produced, and hopefully everybody's on the same wavelength. It ultimately ends with trying to figure out a way how you can secure a road corridor formation that is helpful for the longer term, but there is shorter term aspirational stuff that we can put in place to start things off and be more efficient for public transport. It could be things like there are some peak time periods where we want to get buses jumping in front of other vehicles at signalised intersections. It could be that there is a parking facilities that are currently used as off-peak periods that they may have to be removed, so you've got a bus lane overall. There's a range of different stuff that we're going to come to in that LTP space that starts with where we're at today and ultimately where the transport program would like to be in the future.
Okay. I note on page 103, you've got you say short to medium term interim designs will focus on continuous bus lanes. So that indicates you're looking at bus lanes pretty early on for Anglesey Street.
It's in the 10-year period, it's not like day one, right? Okay. So, because you still need to make sure that the regional council's operational elements work at the same time as what investment we're doing. And equally, we don't want to go out there and create a whole lot of problems, I suppose, on the Anglesey Street corridor in one big hit. It's going to have to be a little bit of piecemeal in terms of implementing some of that stuff too.
Okay, cool. And this will come back for a workshop for council discussion prior to the LTP.
Yeah, so through the chair, that was the whole idea of this report, is to kind of whet the appetite.
Yep.
There's a lot of there's a lot of big
it's doing better, right?
There's a lot of big strategic projects happening and thinking happening at the moment. We're aware that we haven't been in front of this council with those, and it's to get it in for those LTP discussions.
Thank you very much. That's good. Thanks, Jean.
All right. Going to Councillor Mesh.
Thank you. Thank you for the visibility of the long-term thinking so that we can whet appetites and get thinking about it. One of the things that has been mentioned already is about corridor protection. So what does that actually mean? Are we simply protecting future options, or are the implications for land purchase as well?
Yeah, so corridor protection is about ensuring that we're able to deliver what we need in the future and that those options aren't taken away. So in this report, corridor protections, often in the context of what we're suggesting as being designation processes. So that's really identifying, being quite specific drawing lines on a map and identifying what land would be required in order to deliver a particular outcome out in the future, and protecting that through legal mechanisms. The designations are large planning, complex planning processes. They take a long time. They take a number of years often to complete, and involve a lot of consultation with affected parties and selling a vision, as well as locking in protection over land. It is important to realise, though, once a designation is in place, that effectively limits what a landowner can do on aspects of their land if it falls within a designation area. That means that council may be required to acquire land as a result of a designation once a designation is in place. So it may result in acquiring land, but a designation process itself doesn't mean that you're buying land at this point.
Thank you. So when you draw lines on a map and designate it, you mentioned that that affects what landowners can do with that piece of land. That's correct, right?
Yep. Yes.
So building on that, once the lines have been drawn on a map, and we've got this plan for, let's say, 30 years out, 50 years out, we want to put a road there or whatever, how early do we start purchasing that land? So if the land comes up tomorrow and we don't plan on using it for 50 years, do we buy it tomorrow because the opportunity's there and we bank it? Or do we say, we hope it will come up again in another 30 years?
There's so many different scenarios that can fall into that place. If you've got a willing seller, willing buyer, my advice would be to take that advantage as early as possible if you can afford it. Okay. Land prices today will always be cheaper today than they will ever be in the future. However, the process itself doesn't force council into a proceedings of starting land purchase. You can sit on that land designation component for as long as you can. In terms of affordability, there's an obligation to show that you have made best steps towards that designation process, which includes, as a bottom line, purchasing land as a starting point, but equally any investments in terms of the transport elements themselves are seen as engaging and delivering on the designation. For a property owner, and this is what Paul was saying, is that we've got some designations over farms and rural activities, for example, and the likes of Peacocks and other areas. The property owners come and said, I'd like to still run my farm efficiently as best as I can, and 9 times out of 10 we work with the property owners to ensure that takes place up until a point when it becomes a transport corridor. There are times there, though, that we will place restrictions where they go, I'd like to build a big milking shed in that location. And so we go, well, that then inhibits the delivery of that ultimate designation in the future. How do we work together that either you remove that at your cost when we want to do it, or we say if that's not going to be effective, then you need to find a new location for a milking shed.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Rachel.
I just want to zoom out a bit. So and just first of all refer to the report and the recommendation, which references transport strategic initiatives have been progressing in line with Council's approved strategic direction. And then a little bit further on, it talks about investment priorities for the RLTP continue to be aligned with Council objectives. And the question is, in terms of Council's approved strategic direction and Council's objectives, are you referencing the Mayor's plan and the objectives outlined in there that we all unanimously approved? And if not, does all of this align with the Mayor's plan?
yes, we do use the Mayor's Plan. In the council's recent direction that you've given to us, when it comes to the long term, I would see that being applied, particularly when we're coming to the long term plan, and the decisions around what we will prioritise in this long term plan. So we're still quite broad in this, and it feels broad, and we would be looking through the long term plan to be taking the work that has been progressed and reflecting the priorities through that.
Thank you.
So through the chair, just to add to that, we've been doing a lot of work of late on investment cases for the LTP to be brought through to you in that space, and the Mayor's Plan obviously is front and centre. The big rocks that we've been working through are front and centre as well, and that's the key place for us to take account of those.
Excellent, thank you. Second question and final question. It says in the report, all strategic transport planning undertaken is aligned with the Access Hamilton strategy. And it's my understanding that that's going to be reviewed shortly. And also, I guess, there was a reasonable degree of sentiment through the election campaign that this strategy resulted in transport capital projects that didn't always have community support. So the question is, to the extent that, I'm just offering you the opportunity to comment on that.
I comment
thanks.
on the Access Hamilton strategy. So I was informed yesterday, essentially the Mayor's office wants to take a Mayor-led approach to the strategy development. Councillor Mesh and I, however, will be feeding into our thoughts in terms of where changes may be needed as well to give some early direction. I would welcome, is there anyone? No, there's currently no one who could speak to this right now, but we could come back to it. Do you have further information around the process, Kevin? I would expect that there would be some sort of workshop so broader elected members would be able to feed into that as well, but it was going to be taken through the central strategy policy planning group in council with direction from the Mayor's office, and my expectation would be that there's going to be some sort of workshop for the broader elected member body, but I do need to get clarity on exactly what that process would look like, so I can undertake to get that clarity and have that circulated to elected members.
So through the chair, just to add to that, I think the only thing I'm aware of is staff are meeting and organising themselves to meet with the Mayor's office to discuss this and actually come up with a program of what they might look like. So they'll be happening in the near future.
Okay. So to the extent that the review lands us in a place where the revised strategy conflicts with the old strategy, and this is what's been guiding your work, how easy is it to sort of incorporate the new strategy, the new strategic direction? How will that impact your work?
I suppose it depends on the depends on the amount of change that comes through that strategy review, I suppose. But I think if you have a really good look at the Access Hamilton strategy, it's tried to combine a whole lot of things together in one place. Personally, I'm not seeing the mayoral plan elements there drastically changing the world, I suppose, in the Access Hamilton strategy component. We think we're actually very aligned in most parts in that. We'll just wait for the review and see what it comes out with.
So through the chair, this is not unusual to have tweaks in this and the long-term thinking and new strategies coming in, and we just have a process to bring those up to date. But certainly I think the question that we're getting at here is all of the Mayor's plans, the big rocks, the things that we've been doing are certainly front and centre across the LTP discussions.
Thank you.
Is it actually worth us taking a staff action that there is information circulated to elected members on the proposed process once that's been worked through around the strategy review?
Yeah, it's not my team, but yes, we can do that, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Okay, Councillor Graham.
Don't cringe. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Sarah. Great report, Paul. It gives us lots to work on and lots to do through your team. Thank you. The one thing I'll question ask as we go, a balance I'm looking for, is this going to be realised? Because in Hamilton on transport, we've got trucks, cars, buses, cyclists, pedestrians and everything. And are we sure as we go through a change in how we move, that we've got to take all of those into account? And at times in the past before here, a lot of our drive was into cyclists, pedestrians and no cars, but we've got to get a balance. And is this going to give us that balance to transition? Because if we lock one out, we're going to get a reaction. If we lock that one out, is that in your plan? Sort of, somehow? Around about?
Yeah, absolutely. There are multiple objectives, I suppose, that we are looking to deliver in anything that we are doing. So there wouldn't be there aren't single investments that are just about promoting one thing. And Tony, if you've got more to...
Basically, you're trying to find a balance between all modes on a lot of these strategic networks. We've done, as you've seen in the report, there's freight studies, so we've identified which corridors are the best ones for investing in freight. We've identified those corridors where we get the best bang for public transport. All of them have other modes sitting on them at the same time. So it's trying to find that balance that comes up with the best approach for each corridor and how the city operates and runs.
I think there'll be more clarity come through as we get to workshops. They've got one request in at the moment for a workshop, so we'll hopefully be able to answer more questions then. Do you have any other ones at the moment, Councillor Graham?
No, the only real small one was some of the trucking industry have spoken to me about the Anglesey Street with pushing trucks to Tristram Street. Is that still on that plan, or is that something come up in workshop?
We're not planning to try and push freight solely to one corridor, is probably what people have been suggesting. The Anglesey Street corridor is not going through an exercise of saying it's a no freight zone or anything like that. Capability is still there.
Cool. Thank you. Cool. All right, Councillor Jamie.
Thank you. First question is around Southern Links. How much of the land has NZTA currently purchased? Just sort of a broad percentage.
I'll be having a guess, to be honest. It might be 50% of the land footprint that's out there.
Okay.
One of the things we're suggesting is that carve out some time to have an update on Southern Links and try to get NZTA to attend.
Yeah, excellent. And second question is around the northern river crossing. If I'm correct, that goes to the Horsham Downs golf course. I assume they're aware of that, and if so, another question related to that is their lease. Do you know? I know it's a little bit micro, but do you know how long their lease is? No.
I can't comment on that. We could have to go and find that out.
Oh yeah, no. I guess I'm just forecasting they'll obviously have an opinion on a road going through their golf course. But obviously it's our land, but it's a conversation. All right, that's it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I've got one question to ask, and that's in regard to the Northern River Crossing. There is money in this coming annual plan budget to start the designation process. Are you able to, but if we start that, once you start, are you basically, what are we committing ourselves to in terms of costs for potential land purchase? Is that something, if you can't answer today, come back to us on?
So the intent, I suppose, in that first phase is to probably bring to council a scoping document, a macroscope to show what we're planning to do and the process and procedure that we're intending to step into. And I'd like to think that that report and document gives enough information for you guys to, and council, to make a formal, yes, we want to continue with the designation process at that point in time. Things like that land requirement element could form part of that. I'm interested if there's other elements that council wants to see as part of that report, would be really helpful.
And is it, sorry, just as a follow-up, I guess, is it going to be difficult to make that decision if it's coming to us pre-LTP, if it's got ongoing ramifications in regards to potential land purchase obligations?
So I think through the process, that type of thinking is the obvious and probably the right time to have those discussions is fronting in through the LTP. So it's,
All right, thank you. So I think we've made it through our questions, so we'll move to receiving the report. Do I have any movers? Councillor Graham will move, Councillor Jamie will second. Is there any brief debate? Yes? Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. And look, I'm supporting this on the understanding that we're noting that these are happening, you know, rather than committing to supporting the actual plans at present. I'm focused on Anglesey Street to a degree. The results of the indicative business case that will come back to us for a detailed workshop and discussion, which is good. I think it does need to, and I'm not saying I'm have any opposition to it at this stage, but I do want to test some assumptions about Anglesey Street. I do want to ground truth the plan a little. I mean, at the end of the day, all strategic plans do have to come down and actually work on the ground and be accepted by the public. And I absolutely accept the need for good public transport, and that is more regular and moves more quickly. No opposition to that at all. But I am also worried, you know, the central city, a lot of work is going on to revitalise it, and we do need to make sure that the access is easy for vehicles as well, and Anglesey Street is the best access. So I just want to be careful about unintended consequences. You know, the possibility of pushing vehicles down Victoria Street or Tristram Street, and Tristram Street is patently not designed for more vehicles. You know, you've got parks, you've got a school nearby, you've got Wintec. So I just do raise that as an issue, but I was really pleased to see the report today, because I knew the work's been going on and on and on, and I really want it to come back here for some visibility. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to appreciate the big picture thinking that's been presented for us today, because if we're not thinking that far ahead and looking for land that will enable our city to work better, we risk closing off options that we're going to need later on, both the council will need and the community will need. For me, the value of the work comes because it helps us understand what's going to be needed in the future and what options we will want to keep open. So the conversation about what gets funded, when it gets funded, how it fits alongside the other things that the city needs to invest in is, I guess, part of what we will look at in the immediacy of the long-term plan, but also it's something that we will contribute to decisions made by our predecessors and those that will come after us. And it's part of this ongoing and evolving plan towards making the city better. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Jamie.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd also like to acknowledge the work that's been done. I would encourage staff to ensure that we take a multimodal approach, similar to what we've heard from other councillors in the past. Obviously roads are very important, and they are the traditional mode of transport of the past sort of, I guess, 50 years. Before that, we had other modes. We had, you know, rail probably number one, and then before that we had the Awa in terms of the river. Yeah, so I guess in terms of the big strategic thinking, ensure we are taking a multimodal approach. Second point I'd like to raise would is around Southern Links. I look forward to receiving a briefing and ongoing briefings on Southern Links. As someone travels north on State Highway 3 from Te Awamutu up towards Hamilton, there's a large roundabout by the airport. I think what we really need to be doing is encouraging people to get onto the expressway rather than coming up through Kahikatea Drive and up through Hamilton. I know Southern Links in its current form, there's two parts to it. There's an eastern part, effectively doing that, taking people across to the expressway. So you head up there. There's a western part which takes people west and then up through Kahikatea Drive. While Southern Links is continued to be developed, I think it's important to keep that in mind. And in terms of the pros and cons of people passing through Hamilton on that K Drive, there could be some benefits to business, but also particularly the large trucks and heavy vehicle movements. I believe ideally we probably want to prioritise looking to send them east so they take the expressway rather than coming through the city. Thank you.
Right. The only comments I'll make is firstly, thank you very much for the report, which helps to give some visibility over the work as a starting point, and the workshops that will work on planning will provide greater detail as we progress through the year. My comment is there's a lot going on there, and land's expensive to purchase, but it's important, as Councillor Mesh said, to future-proof. How do we, as we come to quite a constrained long-term plan, prioritise amongst all of these different strategic outcomes we're looking at? I think it's really important that we get very helpful, solid advice around what are our different trade-offs in terms of potential opportunities to prioritise versus what we may say, look, we have to deprioritise in order to do something else. So that's what I really look forward to, because right now there's a huge amount going on and we have to start with taking bites. All right, we'll move to the vote to receive the report and note the upcoming information that will come to us. We'll go with a show of hands. All those, oh yes, you may. I'm sorry. I didn't.
That's right. Thank you, Chair Sarah. Mine for me is, I think what we're seeing now in this council is a governance who's interested in working with operational to get joint outcomes, which I think is what we're going to have to do in this current economic environment. These reports and giving us information, workshops and going forward is going to be the key to that, because as governors we're responsible as operational with other doers, so we've got to come together and be frugal, sensible, but look at long term and a lot of things, and I think this is the start of where we are. So yeah, I acknowledge the report as a really good key to start that.
Moved by Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Jamie. We're going to go for a show of hands on this one. So all of those in favour of receiving it, thank you.
Motion is carried unanimously.
We will now go to morning tea break. Let's try for 20 minutes. We'll attempt to keep within that. I'll see you all soon. Are we live? Right, we are live again. Can we see in real time how many viewers we have? Watching our stream? Hundreds. Right, welcome back everyone. We're now going to move to the General Manager's report again, unless there's any updates. We'll take it as read.
Yeah, through Chair, no updates. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Questions on the General Manager's report. It might, if we've got lots of questions, it might make sense that we go through step by step, but I'm not seeing lots of lights on.
Oh, is this called the infrastructure and assets?
Yes. Yes. Yep. So this covers FENS engagement, the safety cameras issue, and
Waste management and minimisation plan, annual update, and streetscape maintenance options. This is just a roundup of all of the actions that we've had in various committees to bring it back. Yep.
Thank you. 10 people watching online, but many more, I'm sure, watch in retrospect. Oh yeah. Right, so yeah, we'll move to Councillor Mesh.
There's a similar theme across my questions, but they cover multiple topics. It's looking at the work's been done, what are the practical applications take away for us from the work? So first of all, in relation to the emergency services, conversations have been had and are planned to be had. So have any changes been made to the projects or designs as a result of the emergency route mapping already?
I'll get Robin to answer that one.
So through the emergency route mapping, we have a really good idea of whether a raised safety platform, for example, on that work will be acceptable or not. What it has been really useful for is actually a majority of our sites haven't been on their key routes, but we're still touching base with them and having those discussions each time.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. And the second one is along the same lines with the cameras. What's the practical takeaway for us? What can we do now as a result of the discussions?
Wait. Unfortunately, when it comes to safety cameras, so just to be clear, safety cameras are speed cameras, and then they might be at intersections and they can do a red light camera or a combination of red light and speed, so that they're referred to generically as safety cameras. So NZTA have a program that they're working through. They have funding. At this stage, there's nothing planned for the city. And when it comes to the intersection red light speed cameras, they're still working through developing a prioritisation process. There has been one in the past, but they're re-looking at that. So it really is continuing to touch base with NZTA, but wait and see and look at what opportunities will come up in the future.
Thank you. And the last one is on the maintenance piece, which I was really pleased to read about. It's a review of how we do things. How often do we undertake that sort of review of service and maintenance practices?
I might ask Gordon to answer this one, thanks.
Through you, Chair, Councillor Mesh, we do that quite regularly. So what we've got is we've got an innovation team set up at Connect Hamilton that we look at our practices quite regularly, every couple of months, to see whether we can change our approaches. And this is depending on funding as well. And so we've done a couple of things in the last year to actually look for those efficiencies and actually look at the savings. So it's quite regularly we look at our approaches.
So yeah, just to add to that, it's continuous improvement is what we have at council, to be honest. Yep.
Thank you. And how do we get visibility of those innovations? Is it kind of in the GM's report or?
So those innovations is something that we are looking at a workshop around Connect Hamilton, another one, with probably more the procurement and the city delivery chair and deputy chair group that we've got in there. And that's where they'll be highlighted more, but we can bring those through to the GM's report, yes.
Or exec updates.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rachel.
I just wondered, I know it's early stages in terms of the collaboration with emergency services, whether there's any indication about what the estimated cost of implementing emergency vehicle signal prioritisation might be? Just ballpark, are we thinking 100,000, $1 million?
I'm looking squarely at Robin for this one.
So, just to be clear, at the moment, we're hoping that the cost is going to be very minimal because if we can get the information from their trucks to our database in a timely manner, we've already got it coming to us. It's just not quick enough. So the truck's already gone through the intersection before we track where it is. So we're working on what they call the ping rate. And if we can get that improved, then we will be fine to just carry on and there's no additional cost. If we can't get that to work, we've been looking at alternate options, which is us putting a unit in their vehicle. Obviously, we have to work through making sure everyone's happy with that occurring. And those units are about $1,000 each. And so we're not looking at a huge amount of money moving forward, but we're really hopeful we can just get that ping rate to improve and then we'll be all go.
That's great, thank you. Next question is about safety cameras. If council were to contribute towards these, what evidence do we have that this would deliver a better return in terms of reducing deaths and serious injuries compared with investing the same money in physical safety improvements? I'm assuming that's for you.
Yes, that's another one for me. So there have been trials done up in Auckland around the benefits of reduced red light running and crashes, and they have been successful. I guess that when you look at a site to determine what is the best way forward, NZTA have indicated that if there are physical works that need to be done, they have an expectation that that would be done before you would consider putting the cameras in. I guess that's part of a general philosophy of not wanting to catch people out. They're trying to be genuine with enforcement generally, and this is the same with all the safety cameras and putting the signs up telling people this is an area that safety cameras are operating. So they want to make sure that people have got the best ability to get it right in the first place and making sure the physical environment is reflecting that to people. And then if people choose to not obey the law, then then you look at the infringement type enforcement pros.
Thank you. Question on waste management and the minimisation plan. Of all the initiatives that are underway, are we able to determine which one's delivering the greatest behavioural change per dollar invested, and how can we scale those initiatives while keeping costs affordable?
I'll ask Sarah to answer that one. She lives and breathes this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so that is part of our work, is collecting that data on what change is happening. So we've been focusing a lot on the education and the workshops and collecting that data on what impact that is happening, and I guess that's a little bit of a journey for us, tying up the cost of that and what change we are seeing.
So it's something we might get some visibility on in the future?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we're collecting that data and we can report that back as we go on that path.
Thank you. And then the last question is in relation to streetscape maintenance. And I'm sure we are ensuring that every additional dollar is being put towards something that reduces risks or improves community wellbeing, or lowers future costs. I guess what I'm interested in is what evidence do we have or could we use to demonstrate that to the ratepayers?
Just ask that one again, thanks.
I'm sure that we're investing every dollar in a way that reduces risk or improves community wellbeing or reduces future costs. The question is, look, do we have any evidence that we can use to demonstrate that to the ratepayers?
I think through the chair, probably the best one I've mentioned a couple of times here today, but it's going to be more of a frequency bringing back to this committee, is the review of some projects that we have done.
Yeah.
And the benefits around those, tracking the movements and cycles and other things, but also how we've worked through and actually combined a couple of projects in one, and the efficiencies and the cost savings around those.
Your questions around streetscape.
Yes,
So I think for the streetscape, things like the concrete infill means that we've had reduced traffic management. So we haven't had to set up traffic management at a traffic island in order to do the maintenance and that sort of thing. So that information was provided when we put up that program, but we can dig that out again. And a lot of this work is around safety of our workers and how they can, so we had, I guess, a lot of intersections where there were small bits of planting that really didn't add a lot of amenity, but had a cost associated with the traffic management so that the staff were safe doing the work. Getting onto the roundabout, instead of using an autonomous mowing machine, for example, opportunities where we're making sure that staff are safer. You won't necessarily see safety for the general public.
Right, yeah.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
That clarifies.
To add to that one, I think there'll be a couple of line items coming through the LTP discussion around this, and we can kind of have some savings and regurgitate some of that information around the savings from traffic management in particular.
Yep, thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Anna.
A question back on the waste minimisation and along the lines of what Councillor Rachel asked. So for the LTP, what are the things that we're looking at to scale up or bring forward that will require, our investment or considerable investment in?
Yep, so I guess a significant one that we're currently looking at is options for a resource recovery park. So Lincoln Street is ageing, but it's also a small site for our growing Hamilton. So that will be one of the main ones, but also looking at how we can increase our resource recovery at that site. So not just a transfer station, but also resource recovery options. The other things that we're looking at is our resource recovery in the community. So we're starting our agreement with Go Eco from the 1st of July, which starts in community centres, but also looking at options for our community assets, so our libraries, our pools, our sports parks, and how we can increase our resource recovery there, but also our education at those sites and our education amongst the community as well. So those are the key things coming through the LTP.
Cool. And in terms of the Resource Recovery Centre, is that something that we're having conversations across council about, like with our community facilities team as well, to see if there's a way of bringing things together?
Yes, so we've just completed a master plan with the customer and community group, and that was making sure that we are aligned and looking at when they're doing their renewals, that they're thinking about resource recovery as part of their building renewals too, and how we could work together on those.
Great. And then just a question on our work within our own visitor destinations, because sometimes I feel maybe we could be doing better there. Yeah. Is there some intention to do some deliberate work with our visitor destinations on waste minimisation?
Yes, so we are about to start a program called ResourceWise, and it's working alongside businesses, but we're going to trial it with our own internal units first, and we will be going to visitor destinations to look at them as a trial. We had the gardens and the zoo looking for funding through our waste minimisation contestable fund on how they can increase their waste minimisation efforts. So that's a good place to start working with them on how we can help them with what they're wanting to achieve.
Great. And just lastly, I mean, a lot of the waste issues come from a from outside of our control. So our work, I know you're doing some work on advocacy, but where is the work around product stewardship nationally, and how are we feeding into that?
So I don't have a lot of the detail, but we do have one of our team who is part of the working group. It has stalled, but whenever there are workshops or anything on that, we participate and we are keen to see that progress. So we're advocating for that.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Councillor Jamie.
Just a couple of questions around the cameras from NZTA. It's not unexpected that they've, at this stage effectively declined us. But I'm curious in terms of the cameras, and maybe for you, Robin, just so I understand, is the current, I guess, government policy that you're not allowed, that you have to indicate to someone they're entering a speed zone. You can't just put a camera up without telling them you're in a speed zone, because I thought laws are speed zones. I'm just confused a little bit.
So the signage, it was an undertaking, I believe, this government brought in for the speed camera areas. So that's where the fixed ones are in place. There's still mobile operations, obviously, through police cars and various other things. So I don't believe they are signed. But there's, depending on the type of enforcement, there's been agreements as to different levels of signage.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. And then second one is in terms of the, am I correct that there's a policy that NZTA can't set up a camera, or potentially us set up a camera? You can't set it up for the purpose of gathering revenue?
So I guess, I don't know about that. What I would say is that at the moment, councils do not have the ability to issue moving vehicle violations. So that's where speed, running red lights, those sorts of things have to go through the formal channels, which is either police or NZTA through their various cameras. So it's not an ability that councils have to go and do that type of enforcement. Does that answer the question?
Councillor Jamie, there's clarification on page 117 of the agenda, which says use of infringement revenue from NZTA. For clarity, revenue from safety camera infringements goes to the government's consolidated fund and is not used to inform decisions about where future cameras are installed. Site selection is based on safety and risk and the ability to reduce deaths and serious injuries. So for clarity, I understand that NZTA does not receive any of the money directly from infringements through the safety cameras. So they cannot then use that money to help fund the operations of them or anything else.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, all right. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair Sarah. On the safety cameras, I think if we look at other places, I'm throwing a question in here. Brisbane reduced by 47% the crashes at red lights. In New Zealand, where it's been at 69%, other countries it's racing between sort of 50 and 80 by having red light cameras with a fine of $800 to $1,200. Now, if we reduced, can we go to NZTA and say the reduction of crashes in Hamilton could come back by 50%, the cost to us would be dramatically reduced of what we're talking about and having to do other things to mitigate crashes at lights. And it's because of a fine, and it's worked in Brisbane and it's worked in other places, but how do we work with NZTA to say we can mitigate it? Yeah.
Issue further, am I understanding your question right, that we push back on this idea that you have to have done all of the physical changes that possibly could have been achieved before introducing cameras?
We've got the chance to halve our crash rate at lights.
So,
Through the chair, we can definitely go back and have those discussions again with the NZTA. They're not discussions I've not heard before though, but we can certainly advocate strongly.
so
Yeah.
Can I also suggest too that it's the Ministry of Transport and the Minister of Transport who are setting your
Yep.
penalties and that sort of thing. It's not NZTA, so there is a discussion potentially to be had at that level with
Can we-
regard to your fines and
Can we
demerit points as
politic
well.
them too?
You can.
We
yes.
can?
You can, yep,
Can we as a council politic them?
you certainly can. The chair can, yep.
Okay. And
You know one? Sorry, the second question, sorry, is with regard Street Cape maintenance, can we look at NZTA's probably reduction in funding to mow the entrances to the city so they look a bit better? So can we fund that somehow or find funding to do something like that? Because if it looks better when we arrive, it may make the city better outcomes around our city. I don't know how we do it, but NZTA has stopped funding it, haven't they?
that's probably a long-term plan conversation.
BLGP?
And
Okay.
I understand there will be some options coming to us in regard to level of service for streetscape maintenance. Is that correct?
Yeah. Through the chair, there'll be options there, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Councillor Sue and then Councillor Emma.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, on the FENS part of the report, it's really great to see, by the way, but it's not great to see that people are not keeping the keep clear outside the station clear. And I see that your fix to that is to use some allocated budget from the minor transport improvement budget, which I keep hearing being raised as a source of this is how we're going to fix things. Is there enough in that budget to address this issue, which, according to your report, is urgent, given there's a new truck? Yay, there's a new truck arriving in November.
Yes, so we do have a small fund for road marking and signage for dealing with these sorts of emerging and urgent type requests. So we're happy to do that. I think the other thing that was really useful was FENS recognising that actually it's not obvious that that's a fire station entrance exit, and that there's some opportunities for them to perhaps zhuzh up the gate a little bit so that it's a little bit more obvious that people can expect to see fire trucks coming out of there too.
So they've agreed to do that in conjunction with the funding that we're putting in to address the issue?
Yep, I'm
Great.
certainly investigating that, yes.
So my next question is around the waste minimisation strategy, actually. So the two free community e-waste and recycling drop-off events appear to be really successful, but they look to me like they're almost a year apart. Is that frequently enough, given the success of them?
Yeah, so that is part of what we're working with Go Eco on. We're currently planning for the next one. Ideally, we will hold them 3 to 4 times a year. But yeah, we're just working through that with Go Eco and looking at different site locations as well.
And is there any way of assessing the impact, hopefully positive, on illegal dumping that occurs as we improve this option?
So we do collect all the data on illegal dumping, the number of cases reported and the volume. It's really hard to draw any trend between what could be contributing to that. So, whether the increase to the cost of the waste levy to dispose of rubbish has an impact on it, whether providing more resource recovery options has an impact on it. So we do collect that data and we can report it. It's just difficult to say what is causing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really looking to that, because we are rolling out these drop-off events now, whether it would be useful, I think, for councillors to understand whether there is any drop-off in the illegal dumping as a result.
Yeah. So, was that a question?
Oh, yeah, the question is, can we see that?
Yeah.
Can we see that that data as it relates to the timing of these events?
Yes.
I'm just mindful, ideally we want to finish up our committee meeting before lunch, because then we don't have to all come back afterwards. So if we keep questions and answers concise, kind of, sorry, that was a little bit blunt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it wasn't,
I
sorry, that
did
wasn't
have a little
targeted
bit
at anyone.
of context, probably because some staff may not be aware, but one of the feedback from the events forum on reducing red tape, and this is not so much from the Round the Bridges and the Balloons events that are much larger and have seen great success from the Wastemen, but more the smaller grassroots volunteer-based events, was that they were expected to address waste minimisation in places such as parks and garden place, but council ourselves doesn't have recycling bins in these areas. The question is, are council managing the public spaces, right? Because a lot of these initiatives are kind of, you know, through businesses and our recycling centres and that kind of thing.
So the resource recovery team aren't responsible for the public spaces. That is parks. So that would be a question for them. But I guess, yeah, for events, we're very conscious of trying to make it easier for event organisers. And we are offering more education to event organisers on ways to minimise event waste and build those relationships with those organisers to make it easier for them. Ultimately, it is up to the event organiser to be responsible for any waste and disposing of any waste that the event generates. And yeah, we are happy to work alongside them to help them with that.
So you're suggesting parks ourselves have more work to do in this space, is it?
No, that's not what I'm suggesting.
A little bit of an answer as an interim thing, which is that it would need to be an LTP decision, would be my understanding, as to whether we wanted recycling bins in parks and public spaces. And one of the issues that constantly comes up is contamination, people not actually using them right, so you end up throwing everything out that's in the recycling bin because it's contaminated anyway. So I mean, happy, maybe it's something that we could report back on through exec update. Is that okay to take a action to come back around that?
Yeah, through the chair, absolutely.
That was just a very quick snapshot, but we'll make sure that information comes to you, Councillor Emma.
Yep,
all right. I have one question, and it's back on the GPS stuff for FENS. Robin, at paragraph 12, it says, it talks about the fact we require live, accurate GPS locations. Staff are currently awaiting the completion of the system and data quality improvements from FENS to be able to progress this. So are we stuck waiting on them to do something, or can we, so that's separate to the $1,000 units we could install in their trucks?
So, yeah, so the two are tied together. What we're hoping to do, and the lowest cost option, is for them to improve their systems so that we can get that data in a more timely manner. If that really is impossible for them, then our backup plan is to look at those units being put on the trucks, but we'll still have to work through with them, because obviously they need to be very comfortable that what we put in the truck doesn't upset any other systems and processes that they've got running, etc., etc. So we have a backup solution. It's not the most desired, which is why we're sort of hanging out on trying to get the other work operational.
So just to be clear on that through the chair, the option is, they have an option to actually update their systems, and it would work right now.
Yeah.
But we're providing a backup option to that.
Okay. Could we, right. Could we get a further update at the next update on emergency services engagement on that? Because I'll leave the rest to debate. All right. Thank you. Let's move to receive. It's just receiving the report and keeping debate very succinct before we move to the next item. I think, is there anyone who would like to move this? Councillor Emma. Since you've got your light on. And seconded by Councillor Andrew. Excellent. All right. We're open to debate.
particular section of the report, which is on the collaboration with FENS. Last time we found there was a bit of a gap between transport projects happening across the city and the impact and engagement with FENS, and I wanted to acknowledge in particular Councillor Bitter, who strongly advocated to revisit how we were engaging with them in the past and extending the invite for a ride along, which I took them up on and saw firsthand the impacts and concerns, particularly around usability and maintenance issues they were facing. So as the report reflects, since then staff have worked very hard, including ride-alongs and crew meetings, information sessions to strengthen this partnership. And I think as a result, the report shows that we now have data sharing that allows traffic flows with traffic signalisation priorities, design improvements, revisiting some of the more problematic projects, and also the opportunities to look to future decisions to support clearer signage and signals around the keep clear spaces. But overall, I just wanted to thank staff for their commitment to getting this right, ensuring we're supporting our emergency services and the safety of our city, because it's really important we do that. So thank you.
Right. Councillor Mesh.
Thank you, Chair. I want to acknowledge all the different aspects of the work that is covered in that report, particularly the theme of looking after what we've got, making sure that emergency services can get around the city and making sure that everything works as it needs to. That's the kind of thinking that we need. Now, often when we think about infrastructure, the discussion focuses on what the new things will be. But this report looked at something quite different, but just as important, it looks at whether we're getting the best value out of what we've got. Looking at maintenance practices, service levels, design standards and tech, it's not the glamorous part of council, but it's the sort of work that can improve outcomes without necessarily asking ratepayers for a whole lot of money. I was particularly pleased to see the team looking at whether we're maintaining the right things in the right places and whether there are lower cost ways of delivering the same outcome when some design choices can create unnecessary costs over the long term. I'd like to encourage more of this type of review across the organisation, especially given the financial pressures we're facing. I think continuously testing whether we're doing things in the most effective and efficient way is just as important as deciding what new projects to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rachel.
Thank you. I am just going to focus on two things. The first is to get on the record for staff in relation to the waste minimisation initiatives that I have heard out in the community, very positive comments from the community and also community houses about the community education initiatives. So thank you for the work being done in that space. And then in terms of streetscape maintenance, I just acknowledge my clumsy questioning around that whole piece. But I think the point I was trying to make is that all initiatives, whether it is streetscape maintenance options, or whatever it is that we're thinking about, just encouraging that we're thinking at the front end of all of this stuff, how it is that we're going to demonstrate at the other end of an initiative that we have delivered value for money to the community. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair Sarah. The first one is on the waste minimisation. I was part of taking stuff down to that. It was wicked. It was well run, it was well organised, and it was a really good thing for the community. So if a project was right, that was spot on the money on that one. The other one I'd also like to also put on the back of the FENS is with the traffic light thing, is there any consideration being given to the ambulance service as well? Because they struggle with the same red lights, and even to the police, like our emergency services, I think at times you see ambulances just stopped at intersections. Is there something we can go down that track if this works for the fire service? Big if, but yeah, awesome stuff. We're going forward. Good things.
All right, I'll speak briefly. I really enjoyed reading this report, so thank you for all of the work that's gone on and then has been reported here. Extremely encouraging to hear what we're doing with FENS. My only comment there is I'm really impatient, so maybe if it's going to take a really long time for them to get their data systems and all of that sorted, which could be at a much greater cost than, a few $1,000s to put in units, then could we consider just getting on with trialling those units? I'd love to see this fully in action. The report does talk about the fact that we're looking to engage with St John's next, so there's an opportunity to do something similar there. In terms of safety cameras, I find it very frustrating that if we're being told, well, you have to do all of the gold standard upgrades to an intersection before we can put lights in, that's missing an opportunity to save lives. We can't fix every intersection with physical upgrades all at once. We've got constrained finances. This could be a way to save lives. And if we put signage up that's very clear, then we're not catching anyone out. We're not, and it's very clear it's not revenue gathering because none of that money goes to either NZTA or us. But there's an opportunity there to actually make our existing roads and intersections work better. So I'm really keen for us to push a bit further in terms of the opportunities here for Hamilton and to understand what would it cost as well. So that's still not clear either. All right, we'll end there. Let's go to the vote. Well, let's go to the board, shall we? Voting. So all of those in favour of receiving the report, moved by Councillor Emma, seconded by Councillor Andrew. There you go.
The motion is carried unanimously.
Excellent. All right. We're now moving to the Chair's report, and can we bring the motion up because, so we'll be taken in two parts. Yeah, I think so. Receiving, wait, hold on. It receives the report. Okay, no, it's just one part because it's just receives the report. Okay, so just want to make sure everyone has had a chance to fully digest it and is okay with the wording because there's a lot of words in there. The new edition, which was emailed through at 11:50, is D, which notes that we'll request Regional Council provide a timeline for any further decisions that come up in regard to public transport, including Te Huia, so that we can plan around that. Okay, so hopefully everyone's had a good chance to just be fully over that wording. I was going to ask, so I'll take the report as read, but I did just want to ask staff for a quick update to provide context around the transport planning happening with the hospital, so that elected members understand what that piece of work is and what the likely timeframes are and what information might be available for us to consider heading into our long-term plan.
Yeah, so through the chair, staff are working with the hospital and Waikato Regional Council on a multi-modal plan for the hospital and the surrounding area. We've rescoped it just to include a bit more around the park and ride. It was there, but probably not to the extent that has now been asked about. The plan is close to being finalised, at which point a workshop with the EMs will be sought to discuss its contents and recommendations to inform the LTP. Amongst several recommendations, there's one on to develop park and ride for hospital staff. So that's just an update.
All right, so we need to book in a workshop. I'm just going to note that down well. Are there any questions? We've got Councillor Anna, then Councillor Sue.
Just a question on the multimodal plan for the hospital. does it include, or are we talking with the NGOs that are involved in work that helps people to get to the hospital? So are they part of the conversations? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Through Chair, I don't quite know that answer, so I'll come back to you directly.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And Councillor Sue.
Also on the same subject, is there a report or any information that we can see on the concession that once existed, and I'm not even sure how long ago, for people travelling to the hospital on public transport? I understand it was successful, it was funded by the DHB, and then the DHB withdrew funding from it. Is that part of the discussions?
You're right, there was a concession. I don't know that it's part of the discussions, but probably can be, but we can also get the information on how that was used and that sort of thing as well, to include in that report as a way forward.
Thank you. Can we just have that recorded as a staff action, please? Because I think it will be a really important part of this picture.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Councillor Graham, sorry, you dropped to the other side and then
So quick.
out of my view.
Just one question with the park and ride concept. I take it there will be a destination for the Orbiter and the Meteor to get to there to move to the hospital. So like it'll become like a mini depot where the buses will drop people there to go to the hospital, or is it a hospital direct?
So through Chair, that'll be something canvassed in the report, but yes,
Cool.
I imagine that the buses will have to have some kind of interaction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Ta.
Ultimately, I expect there'd be options available and costs would be considered around right. Let's then move into debate. What's that?
Was that question time for the entirety of the Chair's?
Yes, was there any other questions? There were other things in the Chair's report, if anyone had questions, but I think I'll give a moment. Are we all good? Okay, no.
Around fare changes at for Te Huia. I guess it's more a question maybe for Sue. How are they typically consulted on? Like what process does Regional Council take when they consult on their fares? Do we know?
I did ask a series of questions around that at the Public Transport Subcommittee. I'm just trying to think which meeting it was of the Regional Transport Committee, and what we were informed was that the size of the amount of money, so not the size of the fare increase, but the amount of money it would collect, which we were informed was going to collect an additional, just an additional 30,000 out of the fare increase that was proposed, that figure did not meet their policy for significance in order to trigger full consultation over that with the public or anyone else.
And in addition to that, I mean, similar to us, they've gone out with an annual plan where they haven't consulted on the annual plan this time round due to it not meeting their significance engagement criteria, etc. But yeah, they don't seem to have a separate process for having to consult on fees and charges as we do. So yeah, part of the answer was that they didn't consult on this year's annual plan.
Yeah, and just another question in regards to fare increases again. In this instance, there seems like there's been quite a differentiation between the rail increases and the bus fare increases. Do we have any insight into why that might be? Why they've made that?
It was
Again, through the Chair, asked asked questions about this, not at those subcommittee meetings that I just referred to, but we've subsequently had a workshop on the broader fare setting issue. And what we were told there is that this is the first time that it has been separated out, that there's been a different rate of increase for rail than what there has been for the buses. So it was can I say unprecedented that occurred. The rationale for that was not clear. When I asked for the rationale for that, the answer that was given was that it was a council decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
And further information in terms of the advice regional council staff gave their councillors for their internal transport committee and for that meeting will be circulated to elected members.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move to the debate then. Metam.
Chair, I speak in support of this motion, having accepted an invitation from Regional Councillor Hughes to participate in an informal discussion with available City Councillors on the 25th of May. From memory, there were only 3 of our elected members present, and I had to leave early, so I can't comment on what may have been discussed after I departed. But I do recall making it clear that our council had not discussed the matter, so there was no formal Hamilton City Council position to report, and I was only expressing some personal thoughts in response to matters raised that afternoon. Specifically, I expressed a view in support of increasing Tahuia fares to reduce the level of fare subsidies that our ratepayers and taxpayers are contributing, and aiming to pitch those increases at a level that would not detrimentally impact patronage significantly. I also expressed a view that only gold card holders who have no alternative source of income other than their pension should qualify for free or subsidised travel, as there are many superannuitants still in well-paid employment. Offering them free fares means that many low-income earners in our community who are struggling with the cost of living have to subsidise wealthier older people who don't need that assistance, and I can't support that. I also believe that in principle tourists should not qualify for free or subsidised travel on Tahuia, as again that would place additional costs on our ratepayers, but I don't know how frequently that is happening. Finally, in view of the fact that we were having an informal discussion with only a few of our elected members present and without any mandate from our council, I did not indicate an intention to write to the chair of Waikato Regional Council, specifically because I believed that that could have been misconstrued as advising a formal Hamilton City Council position. I was surprised to hear that it was suggested at the Waikato Regional Council meeting that I had intended to write but must have run out of time. That is not correct. What I did say was that the Regional Councillor was welcome to convey my personal views and suggestions when he attended the Regional Council meeting, as long as he made clear that they were my personal views as a Hamilton resident and ratepayer, not a submission endorsed by us all. These remain my views, and I will convey them again at the appropriate time, should we as a council seek to agree upon a formal position. Thank you for letting me go over time.
Thank you, Metam. Councillor Mesh.
Thank you, Chair. If I can speak to your report more generally, one of the themes that stood out to me was the number of requests we continue to get from communities across the city, whether it's safety concerns or accessibility improvements, emergency access, school environments or other local transport issues. There's certainly no shortage of worthwhile projects. What that reinforces for me is the importance of prioritisation. The challenge isn't identifying good projects, it's deciding which project should be progressed first, what level of intervention is proportionate, and how we make best use of the limited funding. I also want to acknowledge the comments regarding the Peach Grove Road consultation. A significant amount of work went into making sure the options, costs, benefits, trade-offs were presented as clearly and fairly as possible. People won't always agree with the outcomes, but I think good consultation starts with giving the community balanced information and a genuine opportunity to give feedback. One brief comment about the Regional Council part. I have watched the recording of 28 May and would note that what was presented wasn't strictly presented as a City Council position. However, the concern that I've heard raised is about potential inferences that may have been drawn. And so this motion is about making sure the record clearly reflects what views were collected. My interpretation of the motion is to clarify how city council positions are developed and represented, making sure that all elected members have the opportunity to shape anything that may be represented as a council position. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Rachel.
Thank you. I support your motion for all the reasons that have already been spoken to by Mayor Tim and Councillor McDonald. I do want to focus more in general terms on your report, Chair. And I just want to acknowledge the breadth and the scope of critical work streams that are on foot in this particular committee: public transport, decision-making framework review, cost savings, safety improvements, and I want to acknowledge those key elected members who are supporting this. But I particularly want to acknowledge you, Chair, and your work with the team and your genuine efforts to find savings in the city delivery capital projects budget to offset the Hillcrest Library work to minimise the debt burden. So I want to thank you for that, and also Kevin and your team for that work. I want to acknowledge the work being done with the Procurement Subcommittee on giving visibility to transport costs and exploring areas for cost reduction. The speed cushions is an example. Hospital parking, this has been a challenge for some time and it does need to be addressed, and I really endorse the call for support from our broader partners, regional and central friends, but also the caution about managing expectations, because this is not going to be easy to solve. The last thing I want to acknowledge is actually Councillor Moroney's comprehensive report and the work that she's been doing in the public transport space. Of particular interest to me is the shift in public transport patronage as a result of cost pressures. I'm really interested to explore further how we support driving the cultural shift needed to encourage people to use public transport options, because as I understand it, relative to many areas across the country, Hamilton does have an unusually high reliance on private vehicles. I'm very supportive of her comments in relation to the Regional Land Transport Plan and ensuring that our strategic corridors, our public transport investments and growth-related infrastructure are prioritised, and I'm sure that she will continue to be influential in that space. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jamie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I speak in favour of both the report and also the motion around the Te Huia fees, and I'd like to speak about that today. The patronage on Te Huia is up 52% from March, April last year. That's a significant increase in patronage. However, the proposal from the Regional Council is to increase the fees by 25%. That in itself is a significant increase, and that will have an impact on the patronage, particularly in the current financial challenges. Diesel prices have come down recently since this decision was made by the Regional Council. So things are not looking the same as they were at that time. That in itself, in my opinion, is a reason for them to reconsider their decision. The second reason I encourage them to reconsider their decision is based around what we've heard from other speakers in terms of not receiving a view from Hamilton City Council as a formal collective view. So the other thing I'd like to add is I'm pleased to see the Te Huia subcommittee will be re-established. That is an important mode of communication between Hamilton City Council and the Waikato Regional Council. So I'm pleased to see work has been done on that, and I'm hopeful that will be re-established. So I speak in favour of the motion, and my personal view is I'd like to see Waikato Regional Council reconsider their decision based on the 2 points that I've outlined. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Graham.
I suppose I got quite a surprise when Sue sent me an email and saying read 44 minutes into this, and for me, I was ticked off, to be honest. And for me to have an informal discussion that's then tabled at another regional council saying I had and we did, for me is not acceptable. I've mulled on this a lot, and we sat around and had a yarn, and suddenly it's law. And for me, that's not where it sits. And a little bit disappointed that myself and Tim and Mesh were were named as saying we're speaking on behalf of council and we didn't. And I'll deal with that someday when I get a chance, but right now it's, yeah, it hasn't sat comfortably since Sue sent me that thing, and I think we had quite a long discussion, but for me, we talk about stuff, but when it comes to putting it in front of people, it's got to be a consultant, combined, discussed decision before you pass it on, and that breached a bit of trust with me.
Councillor Robbie.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Miti. Appreciate your kōrero. I too am disappointed, well, firstly, that I wasn't invited to that meeting. And second, I want to support Councillor Strange in that, yes, I too am against the increases to Te Huia. It's personal and it's professional. I've used Te Huia, and my two children who travel from Auckland University use it as well, and many others that I know. But probably what I really want to say, and tēnā koe Chair Sarah, I support the motion today, and I'm going to get philosophical again. I often hear bandied in council, in these chambers, through our staff and through our meetings throughout here, that we often use he waka eke noa. And he waka eke noa, I want to clarify with you all, there's often no English translation for many of our Māori terms. It's often we're all in the waka together. But in order to paddle in the same direction, we must all be in the waka and not leave people behind that waka, because then we're not all paddling in the waka. We rise together. We paddle together. We work together. We fall together. We help each other up to keep going together. The better term that this council should use is e harataku toa. I te toa takitini, engari he toa takitini. My success should not be bestowed on me alone, as it was not the individual success, but the success of the collective. Kia ora mai koutou.
Right, Councillor Sue. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I want to speak on the Te Huia fare increase issue. No one will be surprised about that. It was with some alarm that I discovered that a recommendation from the Transport Committee of the Waikato Regional Council that we had at a meeting that everyone was invited to, been informed, was a recommendation for a 10% increase to Te Huia fares. Suddenly, and I think without due process, became a 25% increase to Te Huia. And I say that because I have watched the debate, and I feel that it wasn't very well informed, and particularly misinformed about the position that supposedly came from the Hamilton City Council. And I think it demonstrates the dangers of having meetings where there is not full disclosure and not full transparency, because it does mean that there is a slanted view that is offered, and perhaps then a slanted view that comes from that. For example, I don't think that that anyone had considered the issue, including the Regional Council when it made the decision, of the significance of separating out the increase to bus fares from separating out the increase to train fares. So, for example, now, moving from between, say, Rotakoti and Huntly costs more to take the train than it does to take the bus, and those sorts of issues. I don't think that there was enough consideration given to the fuel crisis and how that might play out in the future as well. And there certainly was not due consideration given to the impact on Hamilton, primarily Hamilton residents, who are 51% of the patronage of Te Huia, of having a 25% increase to those fares in the middle of a cost of living crisis. So I've also seen the information that tells us that in 10 weeks since the fuel crisis came along, that there has been an increase in revenue on Te Huia of $84,000 in just a 10-week period. Now that pales into comparison with the $30,000 that the Regional Council thinks it's buying itself by increasing fares by 25% and reducing patronage at a critical time in a trial for this very important service for our city. Kia ora.
Councillor Emma.
Thank you. I'll keep my speech brief in light of lunch, but just wanted to talk over what others have said. This is a particularly busy and demanding portfolio because it's one of the very public-facing committees. It's how people get to work, how we access services, and really their livelihoods. So there's a lot of passion and varying viewpoints, and your report covers everything from the school crossings and park and ride, emergency services, Te Huia, finding savings to support our libraries and large strategic decisions. So I thank you for taking the time to consider everyone's views and being able to work with us, compromise finding workable solutions. And I also acknowledge the large amount of workload this has also been for staff who have provided extensive information to inform this so we can make good decisions today. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Emma. I think everyone's spoken who wants to, so I'll say a few words. Firstly, I want to acknowledge the work of Councillor Sue and Councillor Mesh in terms of representing us at the Regional Transport Committee and Public Transport Subcommittee. They have been at every single meeting. I've been unneeded, but listening in online as an alternate for the Public Transport Subcommittee. So thank you for that dedication to that role and for continuing to look back to councillors to get views where it's needed and for informing and keeping us up to date. Also, in terms of the Te Huia motion, I think it's really important looking forward that we get total clarity on what other significant decisions are coming up where we as a partner that provides infrastructure for either bus services or Te Huia should be able to voice a view on those decisions. So I look forward to bringing that clarity to the committee. And in terms of the meeting on the 28th of May, you know, we've heard there was no intention from councillors or elected members who met with Councillor Hughes to represent a council view, and they were very clear on that. So it was unfortunate that there was a suggestion that at that meeting that this was a council view, or at least I think a risk that could be seen as a majority view held by councillors, even if it wasn't formal, where it was very clear that there was an informal meeting and with only a small group of us. So I think it's important to clarify that we've got expectations around how we are engaged in the future to ensure that our collective council view is accurately portrayed. Finally, in terms of the hospital, as I said in my report, I want to be careful about managing expectations. Someone said to me the other day, "It's so great you guys are implementing Park and Ride," and I said, "Hold on, no, this was an idea put out into the universe, and that's as far as it's gotten." So we have to be clear. There is no funding, there's no current real plan, but it's something we're looking into because we know there's a real problem there that needs a solution. So we're investigating potential solutions at this stage. Thank you. All right. Let's go to the vote. We'll go to the board and we'll take it all as one.
Motion is carried unanimously.
All right, we will now move to exclude the public. So moved by Councillor Emma and seconded by Councillor Andrew. All of those in favour, and we'll take a 2-minute stretch while we go offline.